have a teen concert at 7 o'clock. It's going to start, and the group is called A Second Thought, and they're a bunch of kids from Londonderry. So it'll be interesting that got together and made up a band. So I think that'll be kind of fun to have some local kids entertaining us. And then on Sunday, the Contemporary Christian Concert, which starts at 3. And this year, a gentleman by the name of Jackie Cox is coming up from Tennessee to perform. I guess he has some contract and that, so he'll be a little bit more professional entertainment. He's country western, so country western gospel type of thing. So that's all the events, and most of the events, if we have rain, are scheduled to go into Matthew Thornton Gym. So Carol, we thank you for allowing us, and we thank the school. If you look at the underlining point I was trying to make, is most of our activities all revolve around the school facilities. So we are very thankful that the school gives us permission and allows us to use the facilities. Again, I'm going to ask if I can have the little carts from the
Golf
athletic department. Yeah, I just need probably one. And so, because last year we got 2, and everybody likes driving those around. It's like I could sell tickets to make a lot of money on that. And we'll be asking the Gator from the fire department as well. We got lots of sponsors. I don't have my list with me. If you go to our website, www.oldhomeday.com, you can get all the events and information. It lists our sponsors. But this year, we collected in sponsorships over $20,000, and that's the best year we've ever had. So the businesses just really stepped to the plate. I mean, we have 22 businesses in town that donated $1,000 in cash or goods and services. So if you bring in the number of goods and services, we're probably well over 30 at that point, because of just how much of a donation it's become, and just how much of an event it's become to the community. I was asked by the press today, how did it change? And I said, in 7 years, I remember it being a one-day event. I also remember a long time ago, people in that cage in front of the Lions Hall, and that was the only place you could drink. I mean, how to the 5-day family event that it's turned into. So I think it's just been a blessing to the community, and it's great for the community, and there's activities for everyone. So we've got everything covered. And my other main reason was here.
Before we go to your main reason, because I think you might be getting out of your chair.
Hi.
Do we have any questions for Kathy? Let me just hit on a few of the other school issues that you mentioned. You talked about the fireworks on Friday night, and those are set off from the ball fields.
Correct.
I understand there's been a change in the last year or so.
Oh, yeah, we changed the fireworks this year because last year there was a concern that there are some pyrotechnics that go on the ground, and kids were going in the back to try to watch the fireworks, and the police kind of didn't want everybody all over in the back of the school, so this year all fireworks will be shot into the air. There will be no ground displays in any form, so there's no sense for a great view going behind the school, because everybody's going to be able to see it. Last year, I would imagine there was probably 2,000 people there, because that entire front lawn was full of people watching that. And again, the Friends of Music are sponsoring that event, and we'll be selling popcorn and glow sticks and that at the event. So,
And the band band playing at that event?
It's sold out, which has got a lot of Londonderry individuals in it, and its entourage.
So the best place to watch that's from the school lawn.
Front yard, right.
And I understand that there's a number of school units that are participating in Children's Night and Kids Night.
Right, the PTAs, Matthew Thornton's, South, North. I even think the middle school PTA is.
And John announced at your meeting at WLLO, LP will be broadcasting all day long.
Yes, so
From
they
the
look
Common?
for, they're on the Common, they're going to have a booth, and they're going to be broadcasting live.
And the
So they look for
frequency,
they do interviews, so they'll probably grab you guys to do interviews and that kind of stuff while they're on the air.
and if you're driving around in your car, if you tune your radio to 102.9, that will pick up what's going on at Old Home Day all day on Saturday. FM, well, yeah, it's 102. Sorry. The shiny part of the CD goes down.
But part of my reason for here, like I said, is to thank the school, because without your generous offer of letting us use the facilities. I mean, we are basically using every single facility at some point, except in this general campus of schools, and we really, really appreciate that. So if everyone has any events scheduled for the 19th, which is that Saturday, I would suggest you plan well, because the road, Mammoth Road, is closed down from 10:30 till probably 12, and it's also closed again at 8 in the morning until 9:30 when the road race ends. So there's no way traffic can get up Mammoth Road to any of the schools.
And there's
And we
a
usually,
detour map at the website.
right, and we usually use Moose Hill for parking too, so even Moose Hill gets pulled into the mix of Old Home Day.
Okay.
Then the last reason why I'm here is as chair, I'm officially inviting you as on behalf of the Old Home Day Committee to march in our parade. And that starts at 10:30 again at the middle school, but you need to be there by 9:30. We're set up so you can watch organized chaos in the making. And so this
Can we
year
can we
our
park
color-
at the middle school?
No, you can't park at the middle school. No car is allowed to park at the middle school. You'll need to find different transportation.
There'll be shuttle buses from other,
Max, you guys are gonna do the Apple Shuttle again, right? So Max will be doing the Apple
Or the-
Shuttle, so
we
you could
park
park at Max
over
and
here.
ride up.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you could park in the school. But- All right, and this year the color of the T-shirts are light blue, so. I got one for everybody this fall.
Thank you, Kathy.
They only sent me one large, so everybody else had to be extra large, so if you're swimming, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Dan's, that's Steve's, and this is Nate's,
Thank you.
and this is George's.
Thank you.
Oh, and Ron is last.
Thank you.
And that's it.
This is sleeveless.
Just gonna need it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Do we have any other questions or announcements?
Down 6.
I would just like to make one comment. First of all, Nate, I'd like to thank you for the stellar attendance that you and your staff present at these board meetings. Hopefully our camera operator that's punting right now is panning the audience, and we can get a shot of all of the administrators that are here in this meeting, but not just this meeting. I mean, they come to all of the meetings, and it's very, very impressive. I'd also like to compliment the board, and each and every member of this board comes to each and every meeting. It is extremely rare that we have a board member that isn't in attendance at both these meetings and in our non-public sessions where we carry on personnel issues. We never lack for a quorum, and it's just a near 100% attendance, and I'm very proud of that and this board and how they function there. Normally, the press is in good attendance, and we have several institutions that write for the newsprint that are here. I understand they're busy this evening, so if you're on the other channel, or if we're in rerun and we're not competing with the other meetings, then that's a good thing. And the citizens are welcome to come and anytime they want, and we'll entertain questions and comments from them. The next item we have is the meetings. The meetings that we have scheduled would be August 15th at 7 o'clock. It's a regular meeting here in this room. We have building tours August 22nd, and the tours on August 22nd will be South School, Moose Hill, Matthew Thornton, and we'll meet at 6 o'clock at South School on August the 22nd for those interested in the tours. And typically what happens, you need to arrive early or on time in the lobby because the tours will start and go through the facilities. We'll be able to see the fine work that our custodial staff does, and oftentimes we'll even run into a few educators in there setting up and working early. On the 24th of August, we will be touring North School, Middle School, and the high school. And once again, we'll be meeting at North School at 6 o'clock. They're on time in their new and improved lobby. And we will road trip from that school to the middle and high school. And if you're interested in finding out where the beach is at the high school, I recommend you attend the building tours. They're open to the public, but we especially appreciate the Budget Committee. Last year, the Budget Committee had very high attendance at the building tours, and during the budget process, it made for very fruitful discussions with them. One thing I noticed on here, we don't have this year, is a tour of the district office. And we did tour the district office last year, and the interesting thing was, as we ended that tour, the Budget Committee commented not on whether we should or should not be building a district office, but when, based on the environment that's over there. If any citizen would like to see that, or anyone else, they can contact Nate Greenberg. I'm sure he'd be happy to show it to him. Ron?
Two things. One, Nate, can you send a letter to the Budget Committee to invite them personally so they, in case they miss this? And the second thing is, I would add, since we have new members of the Budget Committee, I would add the district office to one of the evenings.
I think the easiest one to do would be the 22nd. If that's okay with the board. Because I'm assuming we're going to spend more time at North on the 24th because of all the renovation work. So if the 22nd is okay, we'll add the DO onto that, if that's all right.
Yeah, we can do that, and in many of these tours, or at least a few of these tours, we provide a complimentary food and
Yes.
beverage. So we'll discuss. We have one more meeting between now and then, so we'll discuss it again, and even press release because they're not here, or make sure they get an email. And, I think it's a good time. Other questions, comments on the building tours? Seeing none, the next meeting, posted meeting, is August 29th at 7 o'clock, and that's a regular meeting here in the town office. We have a consent agenda that to review.
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda.
And let's see
We
something.
have a motion and a second from Paul. Paul, I think you had a few changes to provide Mary, who's pulling double duty tonight.
Right, so I'll get with Mary after the meeting. There's just a couple instances where the names of participants need to get changed, and I'll work that out with her.
Thanks for catching that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That's 5-0. The school board liaison reports. I looked down for Pat and for Michael, but they aren't there. So we'll start with Dan.
Okay. I attended a couple council meetings. Real quick. The most recent one, there was some conversation relative to bike helmets, and there was a donation by Miss Bloom. And the police department spoke that at our bike rodeos that we have, they're certainly there informing all the parents of the safety regulations and the laws relative to bike helmets. Basically, the law states that anybody under 16 years of age riding a bicycle is supposed to be wearing a helmet. That is a law that that has been enforced, and I guess they're going to be a little bit more cognizant of enforcing that through education at the rodeos and a few other things. I'll be honest, I didn't know myself that it was 16, so that was one thing. Nate there was some discussion about Wilson Road. I don't know if the board's aware, or the community, but Nate attended the Traffic Safety Study Committee, and part of Wilson Road now is one way. I remember years and years and years ago, Peter brought that to our attention because we've had a number of bus incidences there, and we were going to classify Wilson Road as a Class 6 road, or whatever the number is. I believe 6, correct, where we weren't going to send buses down it. But this sounds like we'll still be able to accommodate those students and parents and children that live on Wilson Road. And Nate actually, I believe, testified at the
Yes.
traffic safety. So part of Wilson Road is now one way. And I think that took care of the bus issue, did it not, Peter?
Should, yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like have very large eyes, but I went down it both ways this weekend, so hopefully it's not one way.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it is.
I don't think it's supposed to start till the end of August.
Oh,
Council
okay.
has to have a couple of readings on the ordinance. But I
Uh,
will inform the police department, they give you a ticket.
Yeah.
in absentia, they can give you a ticket. I thought it was the end of July, but probably is the end of August. But anyhow, in any light, it's before school starts.
Yes, sir.
Another thing of some interest to the board, I believe, in the community is they're still discussing wireless cellular communication towers. They've had a preliminary review of site locations. They're looking for that report to come back to them by the end of this month. They're looking at adjusting some land use ordinances in some of these sites. They talked about, I wasn't aware of this, but I don't know if they've been talking to you, but some of their sites were potentially school district property.
Most all of them, looks like.
Well, there you go. So I think it'd be somewhat prudent for somebody to be talking to the school district, or maybe you could initiate the conversation from your end. I mean, if it's our property, I think it's a wise idea to get cellular communication towers, but at least be involved in those discussions.
Actually, I think I caught that on the television of the town council, and they commented on something about compensation available to the school district.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I think that's why it's somewhat prudent if we get involved in those discussions, at least on the preliminary stage.
Excuse me, Dan?
Oh, sure.
Did they mention any particular phone company?
No.
Wireless company or anything?
Not that I heard or observed. Right now, it's just site locations they're looking at, it's my understanding. They said they should have those by the end of the month, so I'll let you know. Do you have a preference?
Verizon.
Yeah, there you go.
It can be any cellular company. We'd be happy to have multiple people competing for the business to provide us the best possible revenue for the school system.
If I'm not mistaken, the way our ordinance is written, that they have to allow up to 7 carriers on each pole to prevent individual poles from going up within 500 feet of each other.
Wow,
So it'll be multiple users on the pole, they'll have the advantage.
super.
Sounds good. The only other thing that's somewhat relevant to us, or the school district, is there is an ordinance that there was a little bit of discern by the audience that they thought they were going to be able to speak, but it was only the first reading, and certainly I understand that. There's going to be some discussion on the sanctioning of recreation groups and programs and allotment of facilities. So there is an ordinance titled 2006-08. Ron's probably aware of it, but there's still some swirling around out there of groups that would like to see how allotments, and that may affect the district a little bit relative to fields and things like that. But Ron's on the commission, so maybe I'll defer to Ron on that.
We had spoken about that, and what it is this ordinance is not going to supersede our policies and procedures
was my
here.
concern.
And that was something that I brought up at the meeting. The fact is that, the town can set up their ordinances for West Road and Nelson Road, but the school district has its own policies and procedures for dealing with, and we do not fall under the ordinances of the town. And I believe Tom Dolan was at that meeting, and he agreed to that issue, that it's not for school district properties per se.
One last one. Thanks. That was my concern, but they said.
When I
yeah.
saw it,
Yep.
the hair on the back of my neck went up.
Okay. One last one. There's some plan afoot to make this room more accessible to handicapped individuals. There was talking about putting ramps in so they can get up here in the event that they run for office, so I guess they're looking into it, but the entire building. So that's it from the council meeting.
How about budget committee?
Were you there?
I was, but you were there longer.
Okay. Budget, yeah, we did attend a budget committee, Paul and I, and basically, as the previous meeting, there was, not all of them were in attendance, but they would be looking for, I told them that we give it to them in a PDF format, the audit when we got it.
Yeah, I sent them first close.
Yeah, I knew that. And as there's some new members, they wanted to get that as quickly as possible. I think I sent you an email long ago. And basically, I believe they've scheduled a meeting for this Thursday, Paul, to discuss just some, where they would like to go next year. As I reported, the last meeting, they were talking at looking at one point the budget in the entirety of a school town type budget, but that would be a little difficult to administer and review. But I think, I'm not sure they've fallen back apart from that, but it was just discussion at that time. So, but they do have some new members, and I, thank you. You know, I guess you sent it off to them then. Okay. You didn't hear anything from them, did you? Okay. That's it for me.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Ron?
Just a couple of items, and I think the time is just flying by, or I'm just losing track of it with old age. The auditorium committee has been meeting, and what we have done is we've met into separate groups, and we split that up into 4 separate groups or 5 separate groups, and each of the groups is working individually on their different functions, and that's coming along good, and we'll be in good shape to have a report back to the school board in the beginning of October. And the other one is technology, and Sue's got the plan in front of here, so she'll talk about that a little bit later, but that committee has met for the last time since our last meeting, and we're in pretty good shape on that.
Let's see, Dan mentioned bike safety. The Traffic and Safety Committee only meets every 3 months, and Nate and I both participate on that meeting. We actually put together, or I should say, I think Nate collaborated with the town to put together, or maybe perhaps I should say the police department, some guidelines for bicycle safety for our youngsters in town, and issued a summary memo about that went to all the kids in K through 5, I believe, and it was also put on the website and deals with safety with bicycle helmets, riding with the traffic, how to keep your bicycle safe, all those things. So right along the lines of what you were talking about, Dan, that's out there. It's and it's available on the website. There's also further safety information and a bike rodeo that's held, I believe, at Matthew Thornton at least once a year. So there's information available on that. We also did speak, of course, about Wilson Road. I was struck, that was a public hearing, an opportunity for residents to talk and ask questions about that consideration, that proposal. There was, I thought, quite a turnout for that hearing. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 15 people made, something like that. And I was also struck by how supportive they were of this notion. Virtually everybody had questions, but I didn't hear anybody voice dismay or disappointment necessarily that they might have to always take a little longer route because they can only go one way on their section of the road. Certainly, it didn't affect everybody who lives on Wilson, but it does
Certainly not Steve.
either way.
No?
So that was good. It was a good discussion, a good chance for people to give input, and the Traffic Committee, based on their input from the public, saw no reason not to recommend it to the Town Council. See, the C3 Committee met, the Curriculum Committee, one last time before the summertime, and Mark has proposed a slightly smaller membership for that group. It's been 36, and he's got a proposal for that to be down around 30, which is probably more manageable and more meaningful. So that will be settled, I think, probably in our first meeting coming up in the fall. Summer school was described. There's about 106 children at the elementary level taking, I believe it's reading and math now this summer. There are somewhere around a dozen math students taking some math courses at the middle school this summer. Adult ed, I believe Jason said, was about 130, and then quite a few with the special education that goes on pretty much year-round. And the last thing was the 2006 Iowa results came back, and there's some very impressive results there related to how we did, how we've got, in particular, our math scores, our middle school math scores and elementary up significantly, and a lot of hard work went into that, so that was great news. We were happy to see that. Dan mentioned the Budget Committee. The last thing I'll mention is that Thursday night, 2 nights from tonight, the Heritage Commission with the Solid Waste Committee will be hosting a meeting as part of their regular every other month meeting to talk about Welcome to Londonderry signs and the designs for those. And it's a long process, and that committee only meets every 2 months, but if any residents have interest in participating in some brainstorming and design of those signs, are certainly welcome, and they meet here at Sunnycrest at probably around 8 o'clock Thursday night. Thank you.
George?
Thanks, Steve. Start off with the planning board. There's a couple of conceptual discussions going on about 2 rather large parcels that are currently under discussion. The first one's off Rockingham Road. That's about 50 acres. The thought is that they want to put it in a residential subdivision. That's up near Seasons Lane and Codysville Road. That's a maximum, the 50 acres will yield a maximum of 17 residence home lots. So that will have an impact if indeed that moves forward. The other parcel is on Perkins Road, and that begins directly behind the Sleep Inn. The hotel that's up there, that's 26 acres, and one of the discussions centered around a potential mixed use, which would involve commercial, light industrial, and multifamily housing in that area. The main discussion about that had been potential commercial creep down Perkins Road, because there's also another large lot for sale directly next to the one that, I think one's one real estate agent, one's another real estate agent. So that there's potential there for commercial moving down Perkins Road closer to Stonehenge. So those are the couple of things that, we'll have to keep our eyes on and pay attention to, because there's certainly an influx of students associated with either one of those concepts. Ron spoke about the auditorium study committee. The other meetings that we've had is the joint MIS study has met. We're currently analyzing information that we've received, and we'll be meeting with both the school district IT folks as well as the town IT support people in the next couple of weeks. We should have more information when we have the joint meeting with the town council, which I believe hasn't been scheduled yet, but we've been talking about sometime in August, so we'll have more information there. And everything else has been quiet. The tech committee will be looking at the plan shortly, so I will defer to you, sir.
You mentioned the joint meeting. That responsibility of the joint meeting falls on the town council this turn around. So we'll be looking from Brian for the date on that. Tomorrow night is the historical architectural meeting in Sunnycrest Conference Room across the hall. And NH Cafe has been rather quiet as we wait respectfully for the Supreme Court's decision in that process. We expect that decision to occur in the August-September timeframe, shortly before the elections. When it does, I would imagine it'll get rather busy. And there'll be quite a bit of news, which you'll find at nhcafe.org. Nate, the next item is superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. We'll start with Amy Corey. Amy's going to give us an update on the middle school master schedule.
And before you start, Tom Prida, I'd like to thank you for joining us from the Budget Committee. We were speaking of the Budget Committee just seconds before you walked in the door, so we all looked up and smiled. That was That was why we were doing so. We were having a liaison report on that. If you can just let the Budget Committee know, and Peter, please, if you could send out the corrected dates and times. But the tours this year will be on August 22nd and 24th, both starting at 6 p.m. The tour on the 22nd starts at South School. The tour on the 24th starts at North School. Thank you, Andy.
Tonight, I'm reporting on the scheduling changes that we made. I'd like to divide it into 5 areas. First, the changes for next year, a segment on math, reading, a segment on the academic skills development, and the extended academies that were approved last year. After each segment, I think it'll be easier if I take questions on that segment rather than just moving forward. In the area of changes, we are instituting 2 changes at the middle school next year. Our academic skills development class, which takes place on Mondays and Fridays, will be extended 10 minutes. That's simply, we found that when we were trying to do activities with either special ed or regular ed groupings, we were running into time constraints. We feel the extra 10 minutes will allow students to get there, get settled, be able to complete the activity, whether it be reviewing for tests or preparing for other classes to come in a much better setting. The other change that we're making is we're freezing periods A and I. We had frozen I this year. We froze A this year. We are freezing I as well, simply because it allows us to offer all the pullouts needed, whether it be gifted or talented or special ed. It doesn't have a major impact on the overall schedule, but it has a significant impact on the services that we're able to offer. So those are the only 2 changes that we have coming out of this year's schedule that we brought to the board last year. Are there, first of all, any questions on those 2 changes?
Can you define what you mean by freezing, just for the public?
Freezing means that they're at the exact same time period every single day. So A period is the first period of the day, I is the second last. Those 2 blocks will never rotate through the schedule as much as the middle school schedule rotates every day. So they're in a fixed slot on a daily basis.
Will they be maintained at the same amount of time each day, and then the other periods would be shortened or lengthened, or how would that work?
The period lengths of all the classes will be the exact same. It's just by freezing them, we allow a pullout to happen that can cross over teams. So in case of a gifted and talented pullout, by freezing I, we can have the 2 6th grade teams that have the accelerated class pulled out at the exact same time and not have any conflicts, and therefore only need 1 teacher to teach that section.
Okay, thank you.
Andy, what does the loss of the 10 minutes mean to the budding class session?
The 10 minutes on Mondays and Fridays means that each of the periods will be 45 minutes, which is the time that we used to have prior to this year's schedule changes. And then on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday, there will be no time changes from this year's schedule.
So that 10 minutes is taken out of the following class session?
No, what we do is we steal approximately 2 minutes from each class.
That's spread across.
It's spread across, bringing each of the segments down to 45, and the academic skills development being 30. I'll move on to math.
Yep.
In the area of math, this is probably where we've made the most significant changes over the last couple of years, and a majority of it has happened at the accelerated end of the spectrum. The program has grown dramatically, and it's also allowed us to reduce all the other sections that we have. So it's benefited all the children to have these pull-out sections. Next year, we will have 2 sections of grade 6 as compared to 1 this year. We'll have 5 sections of pre-algebra, up from 4. At grade 7 algebra, we will still have 4 sections at the 8th grade, and we'll have 1 7th grade algebra, which will have 24 students, which is up from 12 students. And we'll be sending 12 students over to the high school for advanced geometry, which is up from 5. So our accelerated numbers are increasing, but again, they are benefiting all the classes because the teacher-student ratio is down. We continue to look at that program. We made some minor changes, and we will be making changes to the high sections on each team. On each of the teams, we have what we call a high group. What we have noticed over the last 2 years that this group was missing a component to easily qualify for pre-algebra from the curriculum. So we're adding a 2-week mini module, we're calling it, on negative numbers or the left of the of 0. We really feel that for these approximately 60 to 75 students, it's going to offer them a significant change that will hopefully allow more of them to place into the pre-algebra course, which is what a lot of parents are looking at. If this change goes well, the goal will be to change an entire module for the high group and move the mini module down into all our sections, so that will really allow greater flexibility of children qualifying for each of the sections. In terms of the other thing we've done, at the last budget season, the board approved the purchase of 3 new modules for grade 6. We have selected the bits and pieces modules because they deal with fractions, decimals, and percents. As we know, computation has been a weakness of this program. These modules are much better written and really focus a lot of emphasis on these concepts. We will not be changing anything we do with Spectrum Workbook. We will not be changing anything we do with computation tests, but this will be just one more piece of the puzzle of establishing a solid foundation. So those have been ordered, and I see no problem with them being in on time. One thing that we are looking at that we'll be bringing back to the board is, as our numbers grow in 7th grade algebra with 24 students, not all 24 students will be able to qualify for high school advanced placement geometry. So we are going to need to offer a geometry section at the middle school in grade 8. And this will increase the number of sections that we are presently offering from 4 to 5 for our gifted and talented program. But we feel once we do this, we really have a program that is solid, and we just need to, reassess it on a yearly basis and make those changes. So that is something that we'll be bringing back to the board. But we have increased the sections by 5, and we have been able to cover those right now with the special curriculum teachers, but that gets more difficult every time we increase a section. That takes care of the accelerated end of the program. On the other end of math, we have added classes for remedial students who need more support. We are doing appropriate pullouts, whether it be dealing with time and money, to a focus on computation, to an inclusionary model that has kids in the CMP program. So these pullout sections have been based on Iowa scores and a number of recommendations through IEP and special ed teachers. I'm really happy to report that on our last set of kneecaps, our special ed population improved in 10% in this area in mathematics. And I really think it's because of this attention focused on them in a small group setting. Ginny Smith, who has been at the middle school for a number of years, her comment to me was she felt it was one of her most productive years, and she taught a time and money course because those students were really getting skills that were critical for them to succeed in their future roles out in the community. So that meant a lot because Ginny's been through a number of changes and really thought this was beneficial to the kids. The other piece was, with the focus on computation, we were able to improve our computation scores on our Iowas. At the 6th grade, we went from the 64th, excuse me, let me back up. 6, we went from the 66th to the 71st percentile. At grade 7, we improved from the 64th to the 75th percentile. And at grade 8, we went from the 54th to the 70th percentile. It's funny, our math department overall went from the weakest part of our Iowa scores to this year being the strongest part. So that was very nice to see. We are, doing an awful lot, and I want to make sure that we recognize the group of 12 individuals, the math department, who spent a lot of time, Mrs. Arnold, and now coming on board with Ann Kalachi. They're doing an awful lot of work this summer with the new Algebra 1 text, and I'm really thrilled with the progress they've made. Are there any questions on any piece of the math?
Yeah, first Ron, then Paul, then Dan.
Real quick on the math, Nate, we're reaching the point when we had 2, 3, 4 students going over to the high school for advanced geometry, that made sense. It looks like we're hitting a critical mass now with 12, 13. Why wouldn't we be offering the course over at the middle school? We can't give credit for it, as Mr. Dolphin explained to us.
Well, we do give credit because they take it at the high school.
If, the way that it's bizarre, but
Because they reside in the building and take it from a high school teacher, they get credit right now. It's kind of amazing, just because of what roof you're under, in today's age decides whether you get credit or not. So that's why we have continued to keep the advanced geometry there.
Our kids can get, because they go over to high school, they can get a high school credit for advanced geometry. If they take geometry at the middle school, as we had discussed before with the board, because that was one of the things that we wanted to do, they can't get high school credit for. So at this point, the only, our option at this point is to continue to have the kids go over to the advanced, to take the course over at the high school for advanced geometry. If, and here would, and this is something that I think we could play with later and see if we could get this through. If our numbers in advanced geometry go much more above 12, let's say in an upcoming year, let's say they go to 17 or 18, then what I would look to see is if we could schedule a high school teacher to come over to the middle school to offer it. Then we've got a core enough to warrant a particular class at the middle school taught by a high school teacher, and we'll see if we could get that done, and allow, in that way the kids could get credit. Right now, I think with 12, it would, it doesn't justify 20% of the teacher to send over there. If it gets bigger, then I think we could do that. But there's no, we went through, I agree with you, it doesn't make sense, but.
All I'm looking for, whatever the teacher's necessary, moving 12 kids now for a whole year, going back and forth at 8 o'clock in the morning, just doesn't make any sense. 1 or 2 or 3, I can understand it, but now you're virtually moving a class, and I would venture to guess that as we look at the numbers next year, I will find some math classes at the high school at 12 and 13 students.
Paul?
Peter, when is that sidewalk gonna get built that links all the schools?
The engineering studies are going on now, and the sidewalk is proposed to be started somewhere around September, October.
And finished before the cold winds blow?
That's their plan.
Okay.
It starts at the middle school and goes down Mammoth Road and turns a right and goes to Moose Hill.
And the advanced geometry, does that go all year? Is that a year long?
Yes.
One thing that worked out very well this year was Peter worked with the bus company, and we were able to provide those kids transportation every day. So they would take the high school bus, get dropped off first period, but one of the small provider buses would bring them back to the middle school, so we didn't have them out walking in Mammoth Road during the bad weather, and that went very, very well. It was received very, very well by parents.
Good.
We'll continue that this year?
Yeah.
Did I miss any classes over at, any periods or time at the middle school?
We got 2 minutes less this year.
They get back in time to sign in, get organized, and get to the next period. It works out very well right now.
Okay.
Andy, I just wanted to review again with the increase in the number of sections of math that you mentioned here. It looks like one additional 6th grade accelerated math section that we didn't have before, one additional pre-al. The 7th grade algebra section doubled, so I guess that's no teacher impact. And so am I just seeing 2 additional classes?
Well, the impact really comes in, you have to go back to when we didn't have an accelerated program. So this is really after 2 years. So you have an increase of 2 sections at the 6th grade. It was 1, now it's up to 2, but 2 years ago it was 0.
Over 2 years.
Right.
I'm
And
just
what's-
looking at since
What's
last year.
happening is every time we add a section, that those two 6th grade classes means that a special curriculum teacher is now teaching 2 periods a day and no longer doing an enrichment those 2 periods. The algebra class is again a special curriculum the majority of the time, so there's another class that they're not in. So we just have to look at what do we want the role of special curriculum to be. If it's to get in and offer enrichment, then we have to look at, maybe it's not a special curriculum teacher, maybe we decide to look at a math teacher, because that's predominantly what's taking up the sections.
Yeah, I certainly the last few years, there's been quite a variety of services offered through special curriculum
Right.
department, if you will.
Right.
And since we are heading down this trail, which is something we've been planning to do for some time, and it's happening with acceleration now, if you'll excuse the pun. I guess I'd like to understand a little better what that impact is. To do this, we're taking away from somewhere else, and I'd like to somehow get a better appreciation for what we're not doing that we were doing 1 and 2 years ago.
We can do that. We can actually show you the enrichment opportunities that are no longer taking place as a result of teaching different sections, not only in math, but you're going to see that in reading. Because we really felt it was appropriate for us to meet those children at the top of the scale at the appropriate place.
Right.
And it's worked very well. It's just we've succeeded. Now we have to figure out what we want to be the next step. That's all.
Right. Thanks.
Dan and then Ron?
Andy, I have a couple questions. With the addition of geometry, the children complete geometry at the middle school. Where do they track into when they go to high school? Do
The
they go
plan
into
is-
advanced geometry?
That's going to have
Do
to
they go
be
into
further
trig, or where do
discussion.
they go?
I know that Cindy has been in discussions with the curriculum people at the middle school. We are looking at them potentially, again, because of the size of the section, maybe being able to make that geometry to give them the foundation to track into where the advanced geometry kids would, or devise a test that will determine do they go into advanced geometry or do they go to the next level. That's something that has to be
So
worked out this
we
year.
haven't finalized that
No,
yet?
we have not.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. The other question I have is if you go back up to the additional programs or the additional modules that we put in place at the 7th grade, you're saying we're up from 4 sections.
We've all.
What happens to these kids when they transition into the 8th grade?
We will, if need be, make a fifth algebra section.
It seems like we're going to have to.
I think that is coming,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. Now, the last question I have is, are we still in the same selection criteria of referrals from the educators on these children? I mean, we put in geometry, we're putting in these different additional modules, but are we bending to pressure from outside, parental pressure, or are we still going on our basic premise of recommendations from the educators and test scores and?
We are using the same rubric that we use from 5 to 6. When we get a parental concern, we now have the summer school option, and we have a number of parents who have elected to do that. They
Which
will
is
be
fair.
taking a test in August, and the parents know right up front, if they pass that test with a score of 80 or better, they make the program. If they don't, we're just setting their child up for failure, and we don't let them go into that
We can
section.
only advise, but we're still strongly following the original rubric.
Yes.
Okay,
I mean, we've tweaked it a little bit as we've moved up the ladder, but it's the same basic rubric that was out
and we
there.
have added the summer programs.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, just, so, to my question, it may be necessary to add that additional module at the 8th grade. You're going to look into that?
You're
into
going
the
to end
algebra.
up, I can almost guarantee you, you will have 5 sections with the algebra.
It looks like it based on these numbers.
What
Okay.
we'll do there, that won't cost us another teaching section, because what we're doing this year and trying it because of a maternity leave,
Oh,
is we are putting the algebra section on a team for the first time, and we would then just go up to 2 sections of algebra on an 8th grade team. The problem is trying to balance that and not skew a particular team, so the community thinks they have all the smart kids, which they don't. We
Well, I
don't.
just didn't, if we didn't do that, we'd see our class sizes
Correct.
going this way, and we don't want that either, so.
No, we're going to stay in,
Okay.
in probably that 22, 23 kids in the class, which is a
Yep.
nice range.
Fair enough, thank you.
Ron?
Andy, how long have you been here? 2 years now?
2 years.
I have to thank you. For all the time I've been on the board, one of the thorns in my side, and the board members, whoever ever sat up here, has been the math program at the middle school. We have meetings on it. Every complaint, or most of the complaints you would hear would be about the math program. And just before you came, we had a huge meeting and was well attended by the parents to give us their input into what they thought the math program was. Since you have taken over and your team of math teachers, 12 of them, had worked together, and Bess Arnold had worked together, I have not heard a peep out of this group of parents. You appear to be meeting the needs of the students both at the lower end and at the higher end, and I commend you and your staff on doing it. makes my phone ring a lot less. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's just ask Andy what kind of peeps he's getting from parents about this.
I think it's gone very, very well. I think people have appreciated the efforts, and they also appreciate the fact that they can contact us and let us know what they feel is going well and what isn't. And some of the changes that you see us bringing forth are the feedback that we're getting from parents. We'll have our first group from this program as 8th graders next year. So we'll be able to get some impressions from the high school as far as what they're doing in advanced geometry. We may be offering a geometry section. We might have 5 algebra sections. And when you start to add that up, all of a sudden, you're looking at probably close to, 140 children taking some level of advanced math. And the other kids that are left, except for the pull-out special ed children, are receiving pre-algebra, which in many districts is the standard 8th grade course. So really, I would say that, we're exceeding most places in this area. And I think the other thing that's gone very well is we have formed some great relationships math-wise between the middle school and the high school. As you can see, the discussions of the Algebra 1 textbooks and things like that, it's going very well. In a lot of different ways, the curriculum coordinators have stepped up to the plate and are solving many of these issues.
Questions on the math?
Next is the area of reading. Last year, we decided to really focus on the children who needed more support. We knew who they were. They were coming out of the elementary program from the initiatives that were instituted down there. And we went to smaller sections, team taught between a special educator and a reading teacher. We're very happy. Again, we saw a 10% increase in our kneecap scores. And I think more importantly, we saw children having more success in reading, which allowed them to have more success across the board. We are expanding that to grades 7 and 8. We have just finished that scheduling. We will have this program throughout the building. One, at grade 7, a child could either take a foundations course, which we're really looking at the basic skills, comprehension, a lot of the things that, again, follow through on what they did in grade 6 in the elementary school, or a literature class. And that class is beefed up a little. We feel by dividing these two groups of students, we can better meet their needs and hopefully provide a better reader before they get to the 9th grade, because it's such a critical thing. And I know I just sent Jim a couple weeks ago my list of kids who still need reading at the high school level. So those discussions constantly go on, and we're placing those kids in those sections so that we're continuing to support them. So the reading has gone well. The other piece that we added, we decided since we were doing it on one end of the spectrum, we should do it for our gifted and talented readers. So we established a section on each of the teams taught by special curriculum, where students who qualify again through a rubric very similar to math are placed in an accelerated reading class where they do an awful lot of discussion and an awful lot in a reflections notebook, really challenging them to their ability. That is a section we're working on this summer. We were happy with our results, but overall we think we can get a lot better. Similar to the math, it needs to grow and develop. So those are the two things taking place in reading. Again, that's another area where we have taken special curriculum and now assign them to specifically deal with those gifted and talented kids. And that's kind of why we started the program of special curriculum, but it does eat up some more sections. Any questions on the reading?
In lieu of what course do they take the additional enrichment, or is it in place of the English course?
No, in terms of, at the 6th grade level, every student has reading.
Right.
So
You're moving it to the 7th and 8th grade level now.
those students are students who didn't qualify to be in world language.
Okay, and now you said the enrichment group at the upper level too.
We haven't moved the enrichment group to 7 and 8 yet.
Okay.
Because those kids tend to go into world language. And from our recent scores on the Iowa and the kneecaps, those children who did move into world language, because of what they now do in language arts, their reading skills have been maintained. We have a number of outside reading and independent reading projects that each of the 7th and 8th grade language arts teachers uses for that group of students.
Okay, so this is in lieu of world language at the levels at the lower levels, those who not qualify, that period would be better spent
Right.
in the English area of English literature
Correct.
or reading. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
The next change was the moving from advisory to academic skills development. It went well. We were happy with the way it was used. We felt it established a better tone first thing in the morning to start off the academic day with an academic subject. We are presently working with the faculty committee to review ASD. We want to refine it and really get a much more, a similar approach between every ASD. You know, some teams did a tremendous job. Some teams used it for extra help sessions. Other teams use it for note-taking. And this committee is really trying to refine that, bring it together, and saying these are the skills that we absolutely must cover. And that's why we're extending it to 10 minutes on the Mondays and Fridays. I think it was a positive change because when you also look at the change of the policy for attendance as well as moving advisory, I say in the report that we had a reduction in tardies. That was true up until the half-year point. But what we saw from the third and fourth quarters, we actually had our tardies go up slightly, but we had 23 more students in school every day. And when we started to ask the question why, parents were now getting them up and bringing them into school for, you know, second, third, fourth period, rather than the child staying home for the whole day. So we did see a positive impact on attendance, but our tardies did go up a little. So that was it with the change there. We'll keep that. We are looking at, is there a better alternative to this for all students? So I've talked to the superintendent, and we're going to look at maybe a program for at-risk kids within the middle school. We know some of them coming out of grade 5. We know the group that we send over to the LIFT program, so we're going to look at, can we take this ASD time and some other things we do and come back to the board with a proposal for doing something within the school day for these kids.
You don't see us moving back, though, from back into an advisory period situation?
My
It was a
biggest
question, not a
Yep.
statement.
My biggest concern is we simply, as a middle school just under 1,400 students, don't have the appropriate space to do advisory the way it was meant to be. And I think if we look at every person in the building, every adult being a mentor, and those who coach or run clubs and everything, and taking an active role in getting to know the kids, I think you can accomplish the same things. You know, I think one of the things that we're going to work hard on next year is also, protocols to get children to the guidance counselors, to deal with these issues. Some of the issues that came up in advisory really don't fall under a teacher's realm, and we really need to get them to the professionals of guidance counselors and the other professionals that we have in the district. I don't see it heading that way. I think I did talk to the teachers about making ASD every day of the week. They did not want to give up the instructional time they had gained. And that was nice for me to hear. I think I would have got lynched, but they really liked it on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the 7 extra minutes. My next question is, could we gain those minutes back on Mondays and Fridays and do something for the at-risk population? Because not every child in the building needs an academic skills development.
Other questions?
The last section that I wanted to point out to the board, we approved through the budget adding 2 new academies after school. One was a literary magazine and one was a political club. The literary magazine averaged about 13, excuse me, I want to make sure I get the right number. Averaged 13 students per week. They put out a publication at the end of the school year, which they called Writer's Cramp, and it was a variety of poetry and short stories and everything that these children had worked on every day after school. Peggy Parks ran it. It was very well received, and I do feel the numbers will grow. I think, anytime you start something new, it's kind of drawing kids out. The Political Action Club, it ranged from a low of 8 to a high of 34, but I have to commend them because they were able to get both our senators to come into the building and held a teleconference with the governor. So these kids were very, very active. We had Senator Bradley and Don Newcomb come in, and they did a presentation to about 125 kids. Senator Sununu brought in an astronaut. We used a teleconferencing ability that we have at Londonderry to teleconference that to 7 other middle schools in the state of New Hampshire. And then they spent 13 minutes with the governor until we got disconnected. It was on the governor's end, not on our end. They need a little work with that. But it was very well received, and it was the first time the governor had done it. So it was a lot, and I think Bob Mack does a great job with that program. I also want to just mention the SET Club. The SET Club has been around for a long time. It's science, engineering, and technology. They meet on Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. And what is amazing is that we normally have about 30 kids there every single Thursday. And at times this year, we had well over 60 kids. And I wanted to mention that because it's a result of Doug Stith. He is probably one of the most humble people you ever meet, but he is probably one of the best science teachers there is anywhere. He does a great job, and I think 60 kids showing up on a Thursday morning at 7 o'clock attest to that. He just some amazing things. If you ever want to come in and see kids totally engaged, if you can get up at that time and come on in and see them, it's wonderful. And that means 60 parents got out and performed the old taxi service to get them there. So those 3 people, and Peggy, Bob, and Doug, represent a number of academies that go on before school and after school that are really very positive for kids. Any questions on the last item?
Paul?
Yeah, Andy, on the science club, that's probably been pretty popular for several years with good numbers. Does Doug do all that by himself?
Doug does it by himself. If the numbers were to continue at that rate, Ken Robichaud, who commutes with Doug and goes in a lot and does the activities, is willing to offer what I would call almost a second section. But it's a great thing for really exposing kids to science and develop that love of inquiry and everything. And hopefully it keeps them wanting to discover science at the next level and hopefully beyond.
Well, just the numbers that you're describing indicates that it's attracting kids.
Oh,
Is it all 3 grade levels?
It's all 3 grade levels. It's like going into the Mad Scientist at 7 a.m. The kids love it because he's fun, he's exciting. He's had parents come in and work with him. He had head custodian came in and did ham radios with the kids. If you have a skill, Doug finds out about it, you're probably going to be there at 7 o'clock on a Thursday working with him, and it's really good for the kids.
Yeah. Is there anything I don't know if Jim needs to answer this, but I'm wondering, where do they go when they leave the middle school? How do you keep that interest fed moving on?
I would say, when I look at our relationship with the high school, the curriculum coordinators come over to the middle school, the various departments come over. I think we do a great job of scheduling these kids into areas that they really have a passion for. And once they're at the high school, their teachers are no different than ours. They have a passion for what they do. And I think the kids who want that area really go there. I was fortunate. I met with a young man who's going to be a senior next year because I had met him at the Mr. Duffy's Leadership Institute that he runs for the athletes. And here's a young man who's looking at pre-dentistry. And there are a number of kids who come over and talk about the middle school and where they've ended up at the high school. So I think it takes place. I think that's one of those areas that maybe we don't give ourselves enough credit for. But I think what goes into scheduling at both the middle school and the high school. I mean, Mike Dolphin called me today to yell at me, so I went over and spoke to him and we got things straightened out. But we have a really good relationship going on. And I think it really gets our kids, which is why we're here, in the right classes and what they need to do.
And we've seen expansion of the programs, the engineering programs at the high schools, and other things. We're not decreasing, we're increasing, so maybe there's a connection there of keeping that interest alive. So,
and the board's going to hear an awful lot about science because it's on Mark's agenda. So
Project Lead the Way, I think that's what I'm thinking. Some of those programs are related, so I think that's wonderful, and anything we can do to keep that interest going.
Good.
Any other questions? Andy is as you depart, just one thing, you know, in school, there are many situations that are difficult transitions for the students. I think one of the most difficult transitions is from, you know, the 5th grade and the elementary schools into the big school, and getting into 6th grade. I had a citizen that had a very nervous daughter, and she is just anxious about getting there and going there. And when you presented at the events that you do that tell everyone what's going to happen and how it's going to happen, you extended an invitation to, quote, stop by any time. Well, this parent and daughter stopped by any time, and when they came in, you greeted them, and they didn't want to bother you. They just wanted to walk around and take a look. And instead of allowing that, you took them on a guided tour and indicated that, oh, you really didn't have anything else to do anyways. And after you gave them their guided tour, which went on for quite some time, you ended up walking out to the car with them. It was the end of the day, and maybe, in fact, you were on your way home when they came in the building, but you extended yourself and made this student feel very, very comfortable. And I'd just like to thank you for that. And the parent made a special point to comment on how welcome that you made them feel as they moved into your school. So, thank you.
Well, working with Linda, Carol, and Rich, I think we're getting really good at this transition because they're fantastic to work with.
Thanks. Okay, Nate.
Thank you, Andy. Jason is going to present items 8.3 and 8.2 and 8.3. Jay is going to give an update on the adult ed GED program in summer school, and he's also going to fill in for Arthur Salinas on the discipline report. Nog was going to be a fill-in for Judy, who's no longer here. So we'll have to take Jay instead of Judy here.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, we have very good news to report with our alternative educational programming for spring semester and summer session. In our adult ed program, we celebrated 18 graduates who earned their high school diplomas, 14 of which are going on to college. And another 18 graduated with the Londonderry High School 24-credit diploma as a result of taking night school classes. We also had 2 students graduate from Alvern High School by taking adult ed classes this spring, and 1 student was able to enter into the nursing profession by taking our life science course in conjunction with her college courses. So we're excited about that. We also had another 27 day students pass and earn credits in the adult ed program for the spring. I have some statistics for the final grades and credits of spring semester in adult ed, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. 90% of all classes taken this semester reflect passing grades and earned credits. 64 students in the adult ed program earned a combined 108 credits this spring, and that was our largest credit total ever. 64 out of the 67 students that we had in the program passed and earned credits in at least one class, so that's 96% of the kids experiencing some success. We've also just received an incentive grant from the Department of Education for the addition of 4 laptop computers in the adult education program. I'm going to use those computers to create a mobile lab for our fall courses coming up, so we're excited about that as well. The spring semester results of our World Studies program, which is the freshman program, double humanities block for the LIFT students that have transitioned into our into their freshman year. 11 out of the 18 students that were in that class passed and earned credit in the World Studies program for spring. That's 61% of the kids. And 11 out of 18 are academically on track entering their sophomore year. If you could turn your attention to page 3 with those World Studies statistics, at the end of the school year, freshmen should accrue at least 6 credits to be on track towards graduation with our 24-credit diploma. As I said before, 61% of the World Studies students are on track, 11 of the 18, and that's down 15% from mid-semester. So we were disappointed about that. We had another 17% that are within a credit and a half of being on track, and we feel that 4 of these 18 students are in serious academic jeopardy entering the 10th grade, and that's 22% of the students. I took a look at this World Studies class compared to our first World Studies class that had gone through. And they're actually the statistics are a slight improvement compared with last year's groups. At the end of the 04-05 school year, only 35% of our students were on track, with another 31% within 1 to 2 credits. And we also had a third of our students with fewer than 3 credits. So there is an improvement overall, but we are tracking that carefully. Those World Studies students that are now finishing their sophomore year, they should have accrued 12 credits, so we've also tracked them as well. 8 of the 19 students are on track for graduation with 12 or more credits entering their junior year. That's 42% of the kids. Another 16%, 3 of the 19, have between 9 and 11 and 3/4 credits entering their junior year. 6 of the 19 have between 6 and 8 and 3/4 credits, so they're a semester behind entering the junior year. That's 32% of them. And 10% of them have 5 credits or less, and so they're a full year behind entering their junior year. And that's been the credit tracking for the World Studies kids for 2 years.
Ron, you have a question?
Yeah, I've got to ask you, I look at the World Studies program. Have we looked into these numbers for the second semester? Don't look as encouraging as they did before when I have 7 students have Ds and 7 students failed out of 18.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant number. It seems that this is switched. Have we looked at or evaluate what happened? Why? I mean, we should be looking at that. Is it, did our teaching methods change? What caused a success in the first semester to I don't want to use a mediocre response in the second semester, for the lack of a better term?
Mm-hmm.
Have we looked at this and evaluated what's happening there?
We have had discussions about that, because the first thing we looked at was whether or not the study skills in the third block that we had the first year, if that had impacted it. They didn't feel it was because of the encouraging numbers from the fall. They did some portfolio assessment where the students kept a collection of their work for the entire semester, so it was really based, a lot of their grade was based on the work that they actually produced, and some of them really did shut down and not do the work. I feel Mr. Nalzinski, Mr. McCune, who teach in that double block, have done all they can to give those kids the opportunity to succeed, and some of them have just chosen, unfortunately, to not take advantage of that.
I guess, and maybe this is not the place, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, because I think we're missing something, okay? And I'm not saying it's the teachers. Something, we had a LIFT program that's very successful, going into a world history program that's successful, and it seems to be tailing off somewhere in the process there. And maybe there's some other stuff that we can do to make sure that we get the results that we're looking for here. Okay, I think that's where I'm coming from on
No,
that.
I understand. In fact, we offered opportunities for those students, because a lot of them were behind in credits, to join the Alvin program, the agricultural production program. Only 2 students out of that class took advantage of that opportunity. Some did take summer school classes, so that was encouraging because they needed to fulfill some required courses that they were taking, but not enough. Not what I had anticipated getting based on the result of how many had failed that second semester.
It just seems like it jumps out at me on the page, the numbers.
Before we leave that point,
Oh, Paul?
Jason, weren't there similar results a year ago where we had a fair number who passed World Studies, but still many Ds in there?
Yes, I didn't compare fall to fall and spring to spring, and I should have, because there was a decline from that first fall into the spring. It was very encouraging to start, and then they sort of burnt out towards the end of the school year. I don't think it's exclusive to that class either. I think these students have failed multiple courses, the ECE course or a math course or health, so it's not just these 2 classes that they're struggling in, and I don't think it's indicative of what's going on particularly in that class, but big picture-wise, there's something that's impeding their progress.
Yeah, and that's the underlying or the root cause that I think we need to get to, because the purpose of all the programs is to make them successful as much as possible. And we've got to look at it, and if there's nothing else we can do, that's okay, but we said we've looked at it and there's nothing else we can do. That's just that's where I'm going. We're putting so much effort into it. Let's take the next step. We've got some data here. Let's evaluate it and see where we're going with it and come back and say yay or nay.
We've even incorporated more consistently Mr. Torch's efforts as far as from a counseling end of touching base with those students as a class and even individually as well. And he's certainly been more visible with that program than the first year too. So there are some resources that we're continuing to take advantage of.
No. Sorry.
Sure, absolutely. So entering this fall, we're going to have a reading specialist with them in place of an aide. And we found that statistically the numbers in the low reading scores, there were a lot of students in that World Studies course who needed the benefit of having an additional resource there. So I believe Ms. Doss is going to be helping the World Studies program and providing a lot of reading assistance for those students.
Paul, you had something?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Jason, after these kids get out of world studies, how, to what extent are you able to keep track of them, how they're doing?
Well, I believe a third of them have looped with one of those teachers. It was Mr. Gear that first year and Mr. McCune. So, and a third of those teachers end up staying as 10th graders in that English class. I'm going to continue to track these kids right through though, as far as credits from a big picture, but they won't see the same teacher because of, the courses. And
Okay, so at least we're not losing track of the kids.
No, not at
How
all.
they're doing year to year.
Correct.
I'd like, go, Ron?
Go ahead, I just have one more question.
Okay, I'd like to take a counterpoint to Ron. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing absolutely everything we can to analyze the program and make it successful. But the counterpoint I'd like to take is ultimately here, it is the student's responsibility to take action. And this is, after all, as we refer to it, adult education. It is their responsibility to work as a young adult and to make the decision to pass this course so that they can receive their Londonderry High School diploma. And I actually look at the failures as a bit of a success, and let me explain that. We, or at least this 1/5 of the board, to use one of Dan's expressions, I don't expect that this program is in place to provide a diploma mill, that they will automatically, if they sign up for this program, get a Londonderry High School diploma. I expect that they'll have to earn it. So if there are some people that fail and don't make it, then so be it. Ron and then Dan?
Just a counterpoint, I'm not looking for a diploma mill, but if I have 14 out of 18 students getting D or below, I probably can do that in a regular class and not have the program. That's where I'm coming from. I could put them in a regular class and probably come up with the same results. We said we were going to teach the world history program differently than we teach the regular program, and that's what I'm asking is that where we're going on this? I'm not looking to, you sign up, you get a diploma. That's not even close to where I want to be. And you're right, the children have to participate in this, in the day program to make this happen. And maybe it is the students, and I'm not saying it isn't, that we're doing all we can, but we should evaluate data as we continuously do it. Evaluate the data to see this is exactly where we want to be.
We are going to be meeting with those teachers this summer. They're meeting with the LIFT teachers as well to meet the new students coming in. So we're going to discuss some of those things, the curriculum coordinators and the administrative team as well. So
What do we do now? I look at students here on the bottom of the page, the sophomore, and they're a full year behind. And it appears at that rate they're not going to be successful in the program. Now, how do we intervene there? Do we start guiding them towards the adult education program? What is the process at that point in time where we see you're a full year behind now? And
at this time, we're meeting with the students individually to say you have to access classes outside of the school day, whether it's at night, through the summer. You have to do coursework or independent studies to try to catch up with those credits if you want to stay on track towards that 24 credit diploma. Depending on their age and their year and whether they've had any success at all, we'll discuss the option of the 20 credit diploma down the road from there. But the counselors are working with these students, and obviously we're very concerned when you're a full year behind. It's very difficult to catch up, especially when you're only acquiring a half credit per class that you're taking. It can be costly, and eventually we try to be realistic with the kids to say you'll be 22 by the time you graduate with a 24 credit diploma if you're going on this pace. You could possibly graduate with your class with the adult ed program if you take this, and then we map out a plan for them. So there's a lot of individual counseling going on with these students between the four houses, and Jim and Mike have taken an active role as well, meeting with these kids as well as the guidance counselors.
Dan?
Can we shift direction for a minute? Let's look at our summer school. Each year, we do everything we can in notification. Question I have is, we sent out 231 letters, and you referenced, Jason, the enrollment charts.
Yes.
I can't tell, because some children might take multiple classes.
Correct.
How many children do we have participate or students do we have participate in the summer program this year?
65 are in the summer school program, separate from LIFT and the agricultural.
Right. So of 231 that could benefit, we only have 65 participating.
That's correct.
Now, last year I asked this question, and I don't know if we did. I don't remember. But do we follow up with them why they don't participate? Is it transportation? Is it job? Is it I'm tired of school? It's summertime? Is it?
Part of it is the summer
Because I
section.
think summer school is, to answer Ron's question about, or do we tell them to go into adult ed, or do we direct them into adult ed?
Mm-hmm.
Summer school is the obvious vehicle to me before adult ed.
Yes. In fact, we tend to target, or at least the population we have of students is freshmen and sophomores. The counselors have made follow-up calls on top of those 231 letters to any student that fails. We get the failure list probably at least 3 or 4 days before the report cards even go out in the mail to contact parents to say your child has failed whatever course, and we're offering that course in summer school. We encourage you to sign up to take
But
that course.
I guess, Jason, and maybe we simply can't get the answer, do we follow up, why do you choose not to participate?
I think from some of
Is there something we can do to help you participate? Is it transportation? I'm not
I don't think so, 'cause
recommending
we've
we
laid
put
out
school buses.
We've
but-
laid out all of those options for parents, that there is busing in the afternoons, the only summer school program that I know of in the state that does that. We work with them with scholarships, reduced those
Yep.
that receive
We talked
reduced
about
lunch
that.
have half scholarships.
Yep.
Those have free lunch have full scholarships for any class, and some of them have accessed multiple classes with that.
So I guess the answer
It's
to
not
my
a money,
question
it's not
is,
transportation. I think for some parents, they're saying why should I pay for the course? If they failed it in the day, they can try to take it another time and try to build it into their schedule. Some students refuse to go, and they're sort of calling the shots, I'm sorry to say.
so I guess the answer to my question is, we don't know.
No.
I think it's a tremendous resource. 6 years ago, we didn't have summer school. We've offered tuition assistance, we've offered transportation, it goes back to the point of the students have to participate. Maybe it's summer and it's edified in our minds that you don't go to school in the summer. I don't know.
I recall, before Nate, I recall in my first year or two, we had some type of questionnaire that we sent to the parents on this. And there was a report.
I don't remember.
The only reason it sticks in my mind is there was the statements
may be
on there
right.
were, we have vacation planned.
We did track that. I ran
Okay.
a statistical report on that.
Right, and it was
broke down with
Well,
transportation.
it had a percentage and you had a statistical report, but to me, the most interesting items were the comments. And there were several comments from parents that, we've got better things to do, or they were pretty blunt that this just wasn't going to happen.
We've even taken the angle that it's, I think, a 44-day program, and it's so condensed that that's their best opportunity to earn credit instead of expanding that out over 20 weeks, where they may fail. If they can just get through 4.5 weeks, excluding a long 4th of July weekend, they got a shot to make up that half credit or full credit.
I just have one follow-up question relative to summer school, Jason. Each and every time you come in here, I'm amazed you do, well, not amazed, I expect it now, I guess. You do a tremendous job in presenting this. But I don't see the pass-fail rate of our summer program.
Well, the summer program.
I know it's going right now,
Yep.
but I never remember having a subsequent follow-up to the pass-fail rate like we do with World Studies.
Okay.
Do we find most of them pass?
Yes.
Okay.
Since
So
the
again,
solution's built in,
It makes sense to go.
those that get through, very few fail.
Right.
Just on the work and not understanding it. It's either attendance or they
It's
choose not
almost,
to come at all.
I know this is gonna sound bad, but it's almost a different population that goes to summer school. They can pass. It's just somehow we gotta get them to go. I mean, we've certainly laid out the money to assist. I just don't understand.
I don't even know if, as a freshman or a sophomore, they still, although we try to embed in them the fact that they have to earn 24 credits to exit our building with a high school diploma, I'm not sure it sinks in with them. I think they feel that they have more time than they do. to
Maybe I
just
can catch
make
up
this
later.
Yeah, it's not a big deal that I'm a year behind. I'll go a fifth year, or I'll take some classes. It's no big deal, and I'm not sure
I don't know
there's
how to
that
address it.
anxiety or panic that sets in with them, unfortunately.
But
Thank
you
you.
make clear each year with students at risk, they're at risk, here's the numbers, here's how far you're behind.
That's where there's,
We're not suffering from any lack of sending that message home, correct?
Not at all.
Oh.
Not at all. And that it's stringent, that a student that has 6 classes, a lunch and a study, has to pass those 6 classes, or they'll be behind. So the 24 credits is certainly earned by those students. And if they fail a class, then they have to look at some options.
Nate?
Yeah, Steve, I think, getting back to a discussion there a few minutes earlier, I think we've attempted to eliminate every possible barrier to summer school that we can. I mean, it was an issue regarding transportation, and Jason mentioned, I think we're the only one in the state that provides transportation. We offset costs for students that can't pay for it. So, from that perspective, I think we're moving on. And what I don't want to have members of the public lose sight of, because we put in the summer school program a number of years back and it's grown, and because we put in the adult ed program, prior to that it was the flex program, we have seen a significant number of youngsters graduate from school that have not graduated. So we're gradually chipping away. There does come a point, and summer school is a perfect example, where youngsters and parents have to accept the responsibility of saying, you are going to go. We can offer the opportunity, we can eliminate the barriers as much as possible.
Certainly.
And say, here's an opportunity for you to take advantage of.
yep.
So, one of the things, and the board is doing the right thing, what are the additional things that we can do? How can we continue to review the data? But one of the things, and the board is well aware of it, and people that are sitting in the audience are too, the adult ed program, the summer school program, the increased number of kids that are graduating, the drop in the dropout rate, the significant number of kids who are leaving the adult ed program to go on to post-secondary, number of kids that, I think this last semester was 18 kids that were able to graduate who would not have been able to graduate if not for summer school and adult ed, has been a phenomenal success. And the work that you've done with your team and the other administrators and teachers at the school, I think has been phenomenal. And it's one of the greatest sources of joy, I think, in pride for the district, that so many kids who did not have an opportunity before, would not have had an opportunity before, have moved ahead. And the other thing too, which is an important statistic because it's a third avenue, is that since we started the GED testing site, 161 people have gotten a GED. And that means that's just opened up the doors for people, and not only in Londonderry, but people in the region, which is part of what our charge is. So a lot of really positive things to take away and look at it, and you've done a fantastic job with it, and very pleased. And the questions that are being asked tonight are just for continued refinement of the program and moving ahead. But as we talked, when we first proposed this, was it 3 years ago, I think it was?
Yep.
It's the school's responsibility to provide opportunities and help and assist. But it's also students' responsibility to access these opportunities and put forth effort. So it's there. So we've got to do our job and continue to encourage the kids to do their job. But there are a lot more young adults walking around now with either a GED, an adult ed diploma, which is key to post-secondary if they want to go, and a Londonderry high school diploma because of the programs that have been put in place and the work that you've done. So And that's without having a law that says you gotta stay in school till you're 18.
Jason, I think the last page of your presentation here really says it all. When you say that we have seen 153 students graduate as a result of the alternate education programs offered at Londonderry, and that's over a 4-year period. That's a significant improvement. 153 students would not be leaving this district with a diploma if we did not have these programs, and you should be proud of that.
Thank you. 26 of those 28 LIFT students are going to go on to the World Studies. So again, we'll look at that in the summer. And just a quick story about our agricultural production program. We have 6 students in that farm management program, 2 of which helped deliver twin calves. Both calves were in distress, and the farm manager had to perform mouth to mouth, essentially, and was only able to save one of them. They named the bull after one of the students who helped deliver the calf, who celebrated his 16th birthday that day, July 17th. So, pretty interesting story that came out of that program. And Mr. LeBranch is great, loves it and loves the kids, and they're really enjoying that work on the farm. So, are there any other questions from the alternative programs?
Your students know anything about geese?
Stop.
It's another meeting. Nope, no
Should I
questions?
present the discipline report?
Great, thank you.
The statistics for the quarter 4 discipline report are also quite positive at the high school. Usually in the spring season, with warmer weather, we see a jump in activity. Students may find more of a lure to leave the building or misbehave, but our records show that the number of incidents decreased by 26% in comparison to third quarter of this year, and by 222 incidents, 49.7% in comparison to fourth quarter last year. The areas that we've seen significant decreases were abusive language, excessive tardiness to class, inappropriate behavior, and leaving school without permission. I think as a staff and an administrative team, our efforts have been to increase visibility and be more communicative, and that's really paid dividends in these areas. We've also seen a decrease in class cuts and feel that's due to consistency and consequences and the possibility of some of those students losing parking privileges if they leave the school and cut class. We still deal with recidivism. A third of all incidents were committed by students who were referred to their assistant principal 3 or more times in the quarter. And of the 8 students who had 4 or more referrals during quarter 4, 6 of them, 75% of them, were in the same category for earlier this year. So for these students, we're continuing to provide academic counseling, exploring alternative programs that we have in place, and working with them and their parents. Are there any questions on the discipline report?
Paul?
Yeah, Jason, probably Judy has answered this in the past for me. When I look at excessive tardiness to class, they virtually disappeared. We're doing something differently. I mean, we're doing great things, but there must be a procedural difference here in how we treat tardies. I mean, how do you go from 60 to 2?
Well, there is great visibility in the foyer, and that's really where the students tend to congregate to then filter out into the different phases of the high school. So between at least 4 administrators out there between every class with Jim, and I'd say a half a dozen teachers outside of their classroom doors, we're filtering kids through and getting them moving.
But I mean, you still got kids late coming to school. They're outside. They're 5, 10, half an hour late. They're tardy, right? This is saying for the whole quarter, 1,600 students, only 2 were tardy? Am I misreading?
Excessive tardiness from if we receive a discipline referral from a teacher, excessive tardiness would be late to their class more than 3 times. So generally, the teachers are really taking care of their students as far as that and addressing it with teacher detention, or they'll talk to those kids. Once it becomes habitual, then they forward that to us, and we address the students to say, "You've been late 6 times to Miss Manning's class. We need to do administrative detention," or we'll talk about
And
that.
just everybody's more on top of that than last year.
It's been one of our efforts to get
Boy.
kids in class on time, and that's been one
It's
of
gonna
Jim's
be-
goals.
This is going to be tough to beat or even get close to next year.
Catherine gets to present that next
I
one.
would want to
so-
be Catherine next year. Wow. Hey, on the last page, I wonder if
Good
clerically
answer.
you could just help me out. On the bottom, it talks about red represents '05 statistics, blue is '06. When we get these, they aren't always in color. Could they also just add the words, the left side is this year, the right side is that year, or something like that? And just before you disappear, I don't know if you have any insight into it, but back on your chart, on your graph on the GED by years, there was the big spurt in '05 where we graduated, or kids took the test and qualified for graduation with more than twice the numbers as the year before, and then '06 dropped down back again to '04 levels. Is there any?
Well, this is just as of the end of June.
Okay, so we got 6 months to go.
Oh, yeah, we anticipate over 100 people will take the GED in 2006 alone.
Okay, so the word's getting out, I guess.
Absolutely. In fact, several military recruiting stations are using our testing site exclusively, particularly the Army. And a world of credit to Paula Doucette, our House Secretary, who does just a fantastic job pretty much running that whole testing process, scheduling those testers and getting them in. So she's worked closely with the military services, with people from all over the state. They're still coming from Berlin, Hanover, Lebanon, just all over to take this GED in the summer to get where they need to be, which is military, a job, bonus, whatever.
Hey, Nate, what's the closest GED center to us? Are they all?
Manchester, I believe.
Yes. A lot of them won't offer summer testing because they go on vacation. See, these are full-time positions for a lot of other adult ed centers, GED testing centers. So they'll pick and choose, or they'll test 20 individuals at a time once a month over the 12-month year. And our service is unique in that we tend to sort of be a call ahead where they'll schedule a time and we can accommodate 3, 4, 5 testers in one sitting, and they can, within 2 weeks take that exam if we feel comfortable that they'll pass it.
Right. I'm just surprised that there isn't more of that going on in the state. And there is. It says a lot for our program.
All right, thank you, Jason.
It's a lot.
Okay. Mr. Corey is next up with the discipline report for the middle school, replacing Mr. Richards for the evening.
Yes, Mr. Richards had a commitment tonight. Fourth quarter disciplinary numbers at the middle school were very good. We had 29 students who received an in-school suspension, 15 students received out of school. Those were broken down at 8 students at the 6th grade, 21 students at the 7th grade, and 2 students at the 8th grade. Of these 31 students involved, 8 were responsible for 23 of the total 44 incidences, accounting for 52% approximately. And of these 8, they had at least 2 occurrences in all the preceding quarters as well. A total of 59 students had at least 2 occurrences during the entire school year. One thing that we put at the bottom, because it's kind of amazing and sometimes we overlook it, 1,182 students did not have a single disciplinary problem that made it to the office. That's more than, that enrollment is bigger than most middle schools. So, I mean, it's very positive. It's because we have great kids, we have very supportive parents. And when we look at those number of kids that we're dealing with, those are the kids that we're talking about looking at some sort of at-risk program for. Questions on the numbers?
Questions from the board, Paul?
Andy, are you and Blake working on a format next year that, starting with the first quarter, we can get some kind of a comparison, some kind of trends out of the high school? Not the same level of detail, but something where we can see how we're doing?
I actually met with Jim today, so we are going to work towards coming up with a similar report. I mean, we don't have all the same categories because of the different levels, but we're going to look at some way of a more uniform presentation from the middle to the high school, even trying to look at tracking from middle to high. So obviously, we'll meet with Catherine and look at some alternatives that we can put together for the board.
Thank you.
Other questions for Andy? Only one question. You may not know specifically, but give categories. There was no instances in the high school, but possession of a weapon.
Right.
Can you explain what a weapon is?
In this case, I know both of them. We had two young men who came to school with knives. In one case, it was kind of accidental. The family are hunters. It went to the hunting expedition over the weekend, never came out of the backpack, but we don't decide whether, the circumstances, it's a weapon, you're out. The second one, a young man brought a knife to school that you would find in your kitchen drawer. And the parents were very supportive. They really didn't understand why he brought it. We dealt with him and his case manager and processed the whole thing, and it went very well. But again, a weapon is a weapon, and you're out of school.
While Andy's still up there, if we're done with the discipline report, I wanted to ask a question or two regarding the district benchmark monitoring report, which I see was in the back of our package.
I just put that in for FYI, and Mark's on vacation, so,
We'll look at that.
Could schedule it for the next meeting.
yeah. So I just gave it to you because I wanted to have you have the information.
All right, so you're actually going to be raising it at
Oh,
another
yeah.
meeting. I'll wait for my comment.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the next item is and we're exactly on schedule. Freed Page Clark is on holiday and traveling. But, he would be very proud. At 9 o'clock, for those of you in the audience too, we're trying to do some experimentation on providing, or those of you not in the audience, we're trying to provide a wireless service hotspot here for the press or those members of the community that wish to use a laptop computer. And we'll be continuing to test that and let us know how it works. Peter?
Yes.
Or Nate? Or,
Yep, we got Peter and
yes,
Nancy.
we've got Nate.
for,
There's
I'll
no
start it
cookies and it's 9
Now, there's no
o'clock.
cookies and no egg McMuffins either. Want to bring your attention to a proposal to, in essence, expand the offerings of breakfast at the high school. In the past, we've always had, I'll use the word breakfast snacks offered to the students who get to the building early. But I think we've all kind of grown up and recognized, and studies have shown, as Nancy points out, and in fact, the federal government's actually encouraging us to expand the breakfast program at the high school and kind of provide what's called here a full breakfast program. And the fact that the federal government has kind of encouraged us to do it, and you see here that in some instances, the reimbursement rate's even higher for breakfast than it is for lunches. We have provided what we think is a good program for those who want to take advantage of the breakfast starting in September. The cost we have for a paid student is recommended at $1.25. Obviously, this is the first year that we'll have a full breakfast, but we're still pretty confident that by the end of the year, the program will more than pay for itself through the program revenues. We do not believe this in any way will be a negative program and a negative producer or to the dining service program. That's really all I wanted to say, and open up any questions.
Nancy, have you done this before, or did you aware of other schools that already do this?
Yeah, most
Pinkerton?
schools, yeah, we did it at Pinkerton.
And what was your experience like there?
We served about 150 to 200 students. I think we did about 120 reimbursable meals. A lot of it was à la carte, pick up bagel or muffin, something before, and coffee. A lot of kids had coffee. Coffee is not recognized as a real food.
Ketchup was at one time.
I know, for about 30 seconds. But that's why my numbers are based on reimbursing about 100 for 100 meals a day. I think it's a low number, but my understanding through looking at statistics is that about 12% of kids will have a breakfast before school starts. So I'm keeping the number very conservative and in a reachable goal.
Dan?
looking through this, it makes sense to me. I applaud you for bringing this, and it's, if we have to do more, my only question is that, let's say if it expands to 200, we have the staff and the resources necessary to carry that kind of volume, then I think it's a wonderful idea.
It's a
And
good
it's,
idea.
yeah, I think so, so thank you.
I just want to thank you personally, because now I won't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to drive to Dunkin' Donuts.
Uh-oh.
Get a muffin. So thank you so much.
There will be muffins other than just whole grain muffins, right?
Yes, sir. They'll have lima beans in them for sure.
Just
Nate's
don't
favorite.
tell them. It's just like beef crumbles. What they don't know won't hurt them.
That's right.
That's right, that's right.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Nancy. Thank you for staying.
Thank you.
Next item, first closed financial report.
Yes, in your packet was my usual memo, accompanied by an updated spreadsheet that gives the FY '07 tax rate, and the reason for that is obviously the positive numbers will add to the amount of fund balance that's used in December, and then the first close expenditure report. Just want a brief note. First close this year it was a little different in that because of the late start of school, we usually have all payroll entries done by first close. And this year, because as I mentioned, we'll have 2 payrolls run in July. We actually just ran our last payroll yesterday for the FY '06 year. So there's one more payroll entry coming. We'll obviously second close, and then we'll close the books. The auditors come the second week in August. As I mentioned in my memo, most of the adjustments were on the revenue side. We did mention back in December and also in March that we knew interest on investments was going to come much higher than expected. But I think, I'd be honest and say Anita and I didn't think it would come in as the number that it finally came in. And I think the 2 reasons for that were simply the longer than expected run out for the North School bond, but also more importantly, the interest on investments. The interest on investments continue to rise throughout the whole year. I believe now, when we get into June, we're about 5.25%, and when we started, we were right around like 2%. So when we did this budget 18 months earlier than this, we hadn't expected that much of a jump. We knew about, when we reported the catastrophic aid, and the other good news we have for you on the revenue side is that the state did make an adjustment, a supplemental adjustment to building aid. We would be receiving $12,000, actually $12,600. That should have been used for the FY '06 building aid. We got the check in July. The state has pretty much stated that it must be used in FY '07 building aid calculations. For us, for December '07 tax rate, it doesn't really matter whether it's in fund balance or the projected revenues. And in the spreadsheet that I gave you, that $12,000 was in that adjustment for building aid. And pretty much, to my knowledge, there's 1 or 2 checks that I know that have not been recognized, but pretty much what you've got here is what the revenues will end up with for the FY '06 fiscal year.
Dan, you have the question?
Yeah, Peter, can we look at interest on investments for a minute?
Yep.
I partially hear what you're talking about, the interest rate, but I would think the more significant impact on that was the run out of the North School bond.
Yes,
Because if you take a 3% differential, that doesn't add up to
right.
diddly.
But
So
the compounding of the run out of the bond.
that's
with
the bigger
increase.
factor, right?
Yes.
So going into fiscal 2008, what you're, 7,
1 and 7.
what are we carrying as investment?
The number we're starting to talk about is using about $150,000 as the revenue number for interest on investments. That's the number we're going to start with, is projecting what we think will end up in end of the year for interest on investments.
But-
And that's really due to.
But we've ran out the North School bond now, or the majority of it.
Yes.
So what investments do we have?
Well, normal working capital of cash flow from, we get money on twice a month from the town.
Right.
And so we obviously don't run that,
No, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. We do not have any bond money.
no,
This forthcoming year.
correct.
So we're,
It's
other
all
than a
working
little bit of
cash.
carryover.
It's all working cash.
Okay, so we shouldn't see this discrepancy, so 150 makes sense to me.
Right.
So this, for the board's edification, this variance of 450 to 85, the principal, the real substantiation of it is the North School bond run out, because I see your explanation, but
Right,
that small factor doesn't,
right. And
It's not the
To
proportionate
be honest,
share
when
of
we
it.
did obviously this 18 months in advance,
No, I
we
understand.
weren't aware just how long the North School project was going to run. At that point, if you remember, those on the North School Committee the decision was made to do a Phase 2 in the summer. And we just pretty much calculated a 6-month project when we did the budget 18 months
right.
earlier.
Well, I mean, under our accounting rules, this money goes back to the taxpayers anyhow, so, yeah.
And to Dan's point, the
Thank you.
the accountants will review or disclose that issue when they do the audit, the auditors.
The reason I bring it up is not to take
for planning.
umbrage to it, we do not have any bond monies in 2007 that will see this same discrepancy.
Right, I think the next time this comes up, if then the South School project is passed,
That'd
You'll-
be,
the year that we do it, we should see a jump in projected interest on investments.
thank you.
Ron?
And the reason we didn't include it was that the bond wasn't passed at the time the budget was in there.
Right,
Correct.
right.
So the answer is the money wasn't there for us to show an interest rate of so much over that period of time. And with the bond being passed, that showed it was just a case that it wasn't in the budget because it wasn't passed.
That's, as I said, Ron, I'm not taking umbrage to
No.
it. I just want, the explanation,
I agree with you.
there's, the bigger proportionate share is the bond discussion.
Right.
And you can't do it because it's not
And
passed.
It's
just
not
so,
passed,
and just so everyone
that's-
recognizes, we know, but if we did anticipate that the bond would pass and we did up
And then it
revenue
didn't.
projection and it didn't come in,
You'd be
we've got
the
to
other
make it
way.
up in other areas.
That's
Yes.
right.
In essence, you're better off with a conservative approach, because the taxpayers wind up to the benefit of it, because the money's gonna come back to
Right.
them the following
Yes.
fiscal year, as opposed to getting shorted on the revenue side and having an unexpected tax hike when people get their tax bill. So it's just a prudent way of
I just
approaching it.
wanted to point out the fact that someone says, well, how did you miss it from 85,000 to 450? It's the answer, we didn't miss it, we just couldn't include it because the bond wasn't passed.
That's why I brought it up.
The only one in revenue I want to bring up is,
Well, before you do, question on interest revenues, do we do some sort of sweep account?
yes,
Okay, so,
we have ongoing agreements with Citizens Bank, which is, our money is what they call swept every night. Actually, we receive higher than, what's it called? It's not the prime rate, it's I can't think of the word. Actually, when we tell sometimes, when we see the rate, it's usually much higher than what most organizations are getting. Lipper, I think, we get higher than the Lipper average.
just
And
on-
actually, we're actually higher than the 90-day T-bill rate.
Yeah.
Just for the public, I mean, we are a fairly large business in this town, if not
Yes.
the largest one with, $55 million budget. So what happens is every night, sometime after this meeting, we invest in funds that we might have,
The overnight sweep account, it's called.
and that returns interest to the community. Did Peter mention that? Thanks.
My account gets swept every night too, full sons.
Out the door. Steve?
Yeah, Dan?
Pete, in your presentation, did you mention preliminary, in the words preliminary, how much we're anticipating returning to the general fund?
Yes.
I didn't know if you mentioned it. It's certainly in your presentation.
No, I didn't,
But I think
the
it's kind of
estimate
in
right
our-
now is 800,000 in combination of revenues and the projected 240,000 in the expense side.
And the impact on the tax rates here, but I would suggest
Right.
you mention that.
And just, the impact right now is about 48 cents from where we had the tax rate for the March ballot to where we are now. 48 cents drop.
Right. Once again, preliminary.
But pretty solid at this point.
I'm sorry, Peter, I interrupted you as you
I'm
were
all set.
presenting. Other questions for Peter?
Just, since we didn't have any press coverage tonight, we'll kind of bring this up at the next meeting, not go through the whole thing, but what we think we're gonna be, because I think it's
Yeah.
something the taxpayers should know about and just kind of mention it.
Actually, by the next meeting, you should have a final.
We could call it a pre-audit,
Pre-
pre-audited financials, yeah.
Wherever we
No,
are,
thanks.
I think it should be brought out at the next
Right,
meeting.
I agree with you.
On the, and I did want to mention, Table 1 gives you the June 30th balances for the non-general fund revenues, in the impact fee, maintenance trust fund, school capital reserve, and the sped trust funds. Those are June 30, unaudited, but, June 30 numbers as provided by the town. As you can see, if you remember, we did up to take out 350,000 in impact fees this year. So that leaves just, it'd be close to $100,000. And then, obviously, between interest and then as developments are approved of the building department, impact fees are then collected by the town on our behalf. And there's a formula for how much, a development fee is charged and credited to the school impact fees.
Dan, not in regards to impact fees, but it's something that was mentioned in one of the council meetings that I passed through on the television. I just think that it's good to float with the board. There was a over 55 community that was presenting, looking for an abatement on some particular
Correct.
capital projects for their community. And during their presentation, they indicated essentially, since they don't send children to school, because they aren't allowed to have any school-aged children in their community, essentially it appeared they were trying to use that for leverage.
Well-
Would you agree with that assessment, or did it just come over that way on television?
I guess if you ask me if I agree, they did state that. But that'd be like, I haven't had a fire since I've lived 23 years in Londonderry, so I'd say I don't use the fire department, although I have gone there for burning permits. I don't think that, their argument, they had several components of their argument, that being one. So somewhat their argument made some sense, but not relative to, I didn't realize that if I was 57 years old, I may very well have a child. So can I not move into that district even though, or that development, even though I'm 57 years old, but I have children? I thought you could. I didn't think you could preclude me from moving into an over 55 development, and it's possible I could have school-aged children.
Sure, I know.
Yes.
So the argument is, I would think that if they have children and they can live here, then they'd be using the services. The other counter to that is they did state, and rightfully so, that they realized that the excellent school systems that we provide do enhance their property value, and they did support the school systems. So they weren't using that as their central argument. I didn't bring it up in my presentation because I didn't think it had a, but yes, you're right, they did make that statement. But in fairness to them, they did say they support the school systems, they recognize the impact of the excellent education in their property values, and they live here because of the community, yeah. But the comment they did make was, you couldn't be there with children, but I'm not sure, I don't know the law, but I don't think you can.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that being a stipulation of the agreements.
As further, the reason I bring it up is we have further over 55 development. I think it's just something that we need to pay attention to. And I think with George attending all of the planning board meetings, it's, that could be helpful in us getting smarter on conversations on that subject.
But to answer your question, Steve, I don't think they were using that as their argument for relief. There was, obviously, we know the community, and there's some other major issues there.
No, and my heart goes out to them for their situation and
That's why I said
what
I
they've
kind of
been
agree
going
with
through.
their,
But it caught my attention
and I
when it
thought the
was-
way they presented it, in fairness to them, made sense, and they were very, trying to reach a conciliatory type, it wasn't an adversarial type situation at all.
Next.
On the expenditure side, as a rule, most of the accounts came in pretty much as we expected. But I do want to point out a couple issues that came up that were new to us as we started closing out the fiscal year. One of them was the issue I brought up with the payroll and encumbrance issue in relation to STD, short-term disability insurance. And just want to make it clear that we're talking about the encumbrance, which means that when we do the payrolls and at the beginning of the year, we do an encumbrance of all the contracts. And it gives us a better planning tool of where we are in relation to the operating budget. What happened here was, as I mentioned, with several employees throughout the year, when receiving STD disability payments or insurance payments, we did not reduce the encumbrance for those employees that were receiving insurance payments. And so when we got to the end of the year, there were outstanding encumbrances that had to be manually decreased, or when you get to the end of the year, there was no payroll encumbrances. That was a surprise to us. We have recognized it. We've actually created 1 or 2 reports that will help us adjust and look at that instance as we go forward, starting this fiscal year. The other issue that came up was, as I mentioned, because of the late start in the school year, we usually have one payroll that's produced in July. This year we had 2 payrolls produced in July, and FICA's Social Security and Medicare. The rules on that is that payment has to be charged and credited to the month that the check was cut, not the year that the expense was incurred. So on the 2 payrolls in July, we accrue back to the fiscal year '06 the payroll amounts because they were FY06 salaries, but because the checks were cut in July, the amounts of FICA for those payrolls remains in FY07 because it's a July month. And when we did the calculations or the adjustments, we didn't account for that second payroll being cut or produced in July. Those 2 entries pretty much add up to the variance between where we ended up around 250 and where we thought we were going to be, somewhere between 50 and 75,000. Again, there was no money being expended. The payroll was an encumbrance or a planning issue, meaning that had we known that, we would have reported a higher variance to budget on the expenditure side, either in December and March, than the 50 to 75 that we reported out.
Questions, Dan?
My only comment is, so we'll start with a negative variance in July for this forthcoming year.
Yes.
So we have to recognize that
Or
expense that we
you
didn't.
start out with normally, we have a small payroll in July, and so that's a normal occurrence, and it's the second, or the 30,000, which is the estimate, is the amount that will be charged in FY07 that it's abnormal.
So this savings, we have to give back, but we'll expend it in
Right.
next fiscal year.
Right.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have questions on table 3.
Ron?
Peter, a couple of questions for you. I had thought on the district repairs, on the school district office repairs, we're going to be reimbursed by the building project.
we're still working on that. It's getting slimmer and slimmer. I've sent numerous, Dave has sent numerous emails and phone calls to Ekman, and
Don't they have an encumbrance on their building that they can hold the money from?
well,
We hold it
I mean,
for
I don't know
Brooklyn.
what, you know, I don't know how they,
Or
I
insurance.
think they've negotiated that out. But why don't we have,
I mean, it wasn't,
Check and
all
report
kidding
to us.
aside, it wasn't due to lack of effort on this side.
No, well,
Saying, we made several calls and walkovers. He made as many phone calls as I can think, and
Who's he?
Mr. Dave Karen, the town manager.
Who do you make the calls?
but again, the
To
tax,
Ekman.
I guess my problem is
Selectmen?
the taxpayer shouldn't pick up Ekman's errors, and that's really where I've got the problem, and we
I
should be
understand.
looking at that.
I
Can I
agree.
keep going, sir?
please,
Uh,
making some notes.
Okay, on the, I assume then on item 731, which is the South School equipment, will be in the good for $15,000 in this budget coming up. Can we get a list of the consultants that we went over on $21,000 that we used this past year?
For which line?
330?
Yes, they are, Volmer, where we did surveying engineering studies. They are remember, if you remember, we had a consultant come in and work with us on changing the phone system. We talked about that, and there's actually a savings to the phone line. And then obviously going forward, the phone bills annually will be reduced. And then the other consultant in that line is Robert Giraldi, who was the IT consultant.
I think Ron asked for the breakdown, so if you don't have the dollar figures, just, you can email that out.
I have them here, but I'll email the whole board and give you the dollar amounts for all three firms.
Okay, I guess, as I go through this here, you have the health insurance. I assume we have people just moving plans around, and that's the reason for the delta of $16,000.
Yep.
Question I have on item 611 is a philosophical questions. We're $63,000 of funds for learning materials to meet the strategic plan. Why wouldn't that have been in the budget originally? Is that additional to what was?
Where that came from was, most of that is due to the reading program starting this year. There were two factors. We found out, and actually, this was, the actual dollar amount was encumbered in March. You had that on your third quarter report. What we found out was the amount of, the lead time to get everything here, if we had ordered it in July 1st, chances are that you wouldn't have the materials here in time for open schools. By doing it in March, we got the materials, plus I believe Mark had a discount from the vendor that was being provided if we placed the order at that point. So it was a savings plus an insurance that all the materials would be here on time.
Okay, so it really wasn't to meet the strategic plan per se, or some additional funds. It's going into next year, we'll have $63,000 to the good,
Yes.
okay?
And actually, we got more for that money than,
Not all, I'm just trying to get it in my own mind where we were on that.
Oh, maybe not all is 63.
Watch out, we'll freeze it.
Okay, and, didn't we have monies in the budget, or we put something in for Andy for new uniforms?
You did.
yeah, but,
We did. The problem is that Andy had such a significant increase in the number of kids that signed up for band going into the school year that he was short uniforms, and I gave him permission to purchase.
he actually he came to the superintendent and and he was 30 kids higher than what he actually thought he was gonna have. So, again, the reason why it's in this budget or being now than FY '07 is lead time to get everything here and to get everything here.
That's all the question.
And Ron, you're right, you have money in there for normal replacement. This is just,
This is additional. to-
yeah, he
Yes.
just had
Okay.
30 kids more, and we figured, well, we had balance left over in the drone budget, and I wanted to make sure that the kids had uniforms, so.
I believe the number he is expecting to have in the band this year is 335.
I'm all set.
I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Right. The only other thing I'll say to you is, we were going up, we were going out to bid on oil, but I don't know. With everything going on over there, I guess to tell you what,
I think we're gonna talk about that, right?
That was the question about the bid. Are we going to talk about that at a future meeting? Here's my question is, we go out to bid in
Usually this time.
July for a bid that starts in September. What would we have to do, and I don't think legally we can do it right now, to go out to bid in the midwinter when most of us homeowners get their notice from the oil company, say, hey, if you want to pre-buy at a certain price, you can. Being out farther, it appears that you might have more of a window to pick and choose a time to purchase the oil
right.
in advance. How do we get to that point
Oh,
to give us the option?
We can do that, but up until last year, which was Hurricane Katrina, we were hitting the market at the low spot.
Okay.
Or I'll be honest, that's what we've been told by everybody, that you hit the right, for the first time when Katrina hit, we missed, the market was at a lull in July or late June, and not the late June, not July and August when we put the bid out. So consistently, up until last year, the abnormality, we would go out to bid at a point where the market was reaching its low point. Because as you think about it, supplies are building, and no one's using oil until the September comes around.
Okay. Is there any advantage to expand that window, I guess is the question I have.
To like a 2 or 3 year contract? Is that what you, or
That
you,
would be one thing, but I'm looking at even expanding it to a longer window of giving you the opportunity to go in there, not wait until you get the new budget, say sometime in December, monitor where oil prices are and stuff like that. And I just saw, I would assume that you have the same ability, depending on that, is to lock in some natural gas, not natural gas prices, but
Propane.
propane prices for the year also. I saw that for the first time.
so we'll work, yep.
South School?
South School, you have, the board requested that we advertise for the South School Space Needs Committee. We ran a ad in the Londonderry Times, and we had running on the bulletin board at Leo, the ad requesting anybody interested in joining the committee. And what you have in front of you is a list of respondents that have asked to be on the South School Space Needs Committee.
Discussion?
Is this all the people? Is everyone that applied on here, or were the decisions made?
As far as I know, I don't think anybody was removed. This is everybody that we know that put in requests for it.
Yep. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the list for the Space Needs Committee.
Second.
Other discussion? If anyone would like access to the list, where would they find that? It's 10:30, or it's 9:30, so I wasn't gonna read all of it.
I mean, I have a copy of it, Connie has a copy, I think Nate has a copy. I mean, we haven't put it,
Can we
haven't.
put it on the webpage?
And
Sure.
also, Mary, if, we'll just put this into the minutes too, the names.
Sure.
Can be listed in the minutes, that'll work, and then they'll be on the webpage and all that. Dan?
I will mention, Steve, as you well know, all these type committees are public.
Right.
So if somebody wants to come and sit there and observe, they're more than welcome to. But I've never seen too many public, other than those committee members, attend. But
I'm pleased to see the number of, there's quite a few parents and the community
Yep.
member on it.
And that said, I'd like to get a meeting scheduled,
We will.
so I'd like to get going.
Yeah, Peter, why don't you work with Linda tomorrow and get a
Yeah.
a
Get it.
date and
We got a
get it
first
rolling.
meeting.
I'm all set. Thanks.
Did we vote?
Yep. Oh,
I have Mary here to look at.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next thing we have is deliberation on,
Did we all vote?
see, I asked the question if
We
we
got a
vote.
second, I don't think we
See,
all
Mary
voted.
is right there.
oh.
First, and we have a second. Thank you, Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Sue, if you can come forward, Sue has the next three items. Policy 2AC, which has to do with instructional materials and library collection development, is first reading to amend. Also, the consolidated grant application approval. And then the last item for her this evening is the multi-year technology plan. Mrs. Ballard.
And before you begin your presentation, I noticed that there was the graduation ceremony, including audio, has been broadcast on the cable systems. And I believe Richard Belinsky, his
Yes.
name was credited on that and assisted you with that.
Knight in shining armor.
Yes, so we'd like to thank Richard for
Very much.
for that
Mr.
help.
Belinsky, we put up an announcement on our web and on Leo 21 that there was an audio problem with the recording services at the Verizon, and Mr. Belinsky got in touch with us, and we were able to use the audio from the tape that he had of his daughter's graduation, and John Bolio did a nice job syncing it up, and we have made that available now to the high school graduates, and if any of them are listening and have not picked up their complimentary DVD, the high school office is open from, I believe, 8 to 3:30, Mr.? 3:30, and they are welcome to do so.
Great.
We do thank Mr. Belinsky very much.
CHAC.
Yes, IIAC, Instructional Materials and Library Collection Development, and I'm just going to read the little brief description I gave to the board in their cover memo for the benefit of people listening at home. As a result of the availability of our school library catalog on the web, we are recommending corresponding changes in this policy. Changes have been noted by bolding and strike-through in the text that the school board has, and they are concerned with ensuring that only Londonderry residents may request reconsideration of materials in the collection. I would point out that the changes are those of counsel. Attorney Upton made these specific changes in our, when we asked him to review the policy.
On the motion?
Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept first reading of IIAC policy on instructional material and library collection developments.
Second.
We have a first and a second by George. Discussion on IIAC, which I misstated as age.
Discussion? I'd like to take this opportunity just to ask about page 4, paragraph E, I guess it is. Sue and I had a conversation earlier today, nothing to do with the proposed changes here tonight, but some of the wording in paragraph E seems confused. And Sue was going to take a peek at that and see if that might be reworded better.
I think if you look at the second sentence, if we change, in the interim, however, access to the materials can be restricted for the child as opposed to the child, that will resolve the issue. And we will make that correction in the second reading.
Sue, let me also ask, if there is a committee formed to review material, 2 people from the public need to be appointed
Right.
to that committee. How are they engaged or solicited?
Well, in general, we haven't had that many requests over the years, but in general, what the superintendent would would consider where the request for, which school specifically the request for reconsideration came from, and try and request the services of parents from that specific school, because they are that specific community.
And how would,
He would ask the principal for a recommendation, most likely.
Okay, so the principal would be the one to flesh it out, try to find some people.
I would also like to note that, as I just noticed this evening, because we had asked Attorney Upton only to look at the policy in terms of the changes that I noted, I do see under the first paragraph, mission statement, that is an old mission statement of the Londonderry School District, and I would bring back to the board at the second reading a revision of that so it aligns with our current mission statement. I just noticed that myself this evening.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 5-0. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Susan, consolidated grant, please.
Consolidated grant. The consolidated grant application is required by the State Department of Education for the district to access entitlement funds that are provided as elements of the Elementary Secondary Education Act, No Child Left Behind, federal legislation. In general, these are entitlement grants usually allocated by the state to local education agencies such as the Londonderry School District based on a per pupil cost. As the board knows, the legislation has changed significantly over the last few years so that Londonderry no longer meets the criteria to receive funds from Title I, but we are eligible to receive funds from several items. And we are asking the board's approval of our proposed activities under Title IIA, which is preparing, training, and recruiting high-quality teachers and principals, and Title IV, which is the safe and drug-free schools and communities. And as Nate indicated, Mark's not able to be here this evening. He's the project manager for Title IIA, but essentially, the activities being proposed are an extension of activities we have had over the past several years, and that is under the class size reduction aspects of the federal legislation. We will continue to hire 3.3 full-time equivalent reading teachers at the elementary schools who work directly with students in the classrooms to help reduce class sizes and model quality reading instruction. And then our other significant activity in this area would be reading training for K-12 staff. And specifically, a lot of the activities are surrounding reading and writing in the content area, so that we will be focusing on some activities at the elementary schools and at the middle school this year. And this provides some stipends for teachers to do work, allows them to attend specific conferences regarding reading in the content area, and also brings professional development activities into the district. And in addition, a number of reading materials will be purchased with these dollars. Any questions about the Title IIA activities? Okay.
There's a indication in here that the district will have 16,500 to carry over.
Yes.
How do we carry over?
When the budget is prepared for the federal dollars, it may be that as the year unfolds, a specific activity that we anticipated we might be conducting is not able to be carried out because the unavailability of a presenter or something comes in at a lower cost. So those funds are still set aside for Londonderry's specific use as long as that occurs within 18 months of when the project started. So what we're suggesting is that we know we have 16.5 unexpended from the allocation of last year. We're combining that with funds available this year, and it's a
So
good thing
they've
there's.
dispersed the funds to us?
No, they will only disperse the funds to us based on a quarterly report to them of our
So
expenditures.
we don't have a legal issue with
No.
carrying over the money in
No.
the state of New Hampshire?
No.
Okay.
I will tell you, though, this, as with all the monies coming into the district from No Child Left Behind, these dollars are continuing to erode and go down. So it's a good thing there were carryover dollars available for this in order for us to conduct the activities.
Yeah. Actually, I found their wording a bit ironic. They refer to this as an entitlement, yet it's for an unfunded mandate. So I'm confused with that choice of words.
Title IV, Safe and Drug-Free Schools and Communities. Bart Hemrick is the project manager for this. Bart is a guidance counselor at South School, and has done a wonderful job managing this federal project for a number of years. Again, there was a significant cut, I think 30 to 40% in the number of dollars coming into us this year in Title IV-A. But nonetheless, we have a very dedicated group of people who serves as the advisory council for this particular federal legislation, and they have done a great job in trying to maintain at least most of the programs that we have used these dollars for, including a licensed student assistance program counselor at the middle school to assist the district-funded full-time student assistance program counselor. That's a continuation. We have done this with these dollars for a number of years. Also at the middle school, 6th and 7th grade students will be identified, and with the school assistance program counselors will attend the Middle School Teen Institute, which has been very successful for these students and the counselors over a number of years. At the high school, we'll continue funding for 2 student support groups, co-led by staff at the school and the YWCA, and these student assistance groups target students at risk for emotional, physical harm, either by being victims or perpetrators. There's also funding at the high school to also send students to attend Teen Institute. And these dollars also fund the SAD chapter advisor stipend at the high school. And then we will continue support for 2 parent support groups at the middle and high school. As regards the other titles under No Child Left Behind, it appears that our Title IID funds, which have been pretty minimal the past number of years for educational technology, will become a competitive grant, meaning that only if you meet specific criteria as defined by the state will you be eligible probably to get any of the funding. And from all indications, I seriously doubt we will meet the criteria. So I don't suspect that we will be submitting in that competitive grant situation. Also, English language acquisition, language enhancement, and academic achievement. While we've been given an allocation, because it is less than $10,000, we cannot have a Londonderry project. We have to throw our efforts in with other districts in a consortium. And in fact, it is significantly less than $10,000, less than $1,000, I believe, Brian. So Brian will actively see if there are other districts who may have less than $10,000 who wish to work with us. Several years ago, he was successful in getting something with Ceresc, but it's highly unlikely that we will tap into those dollars either, because it's simply quite a tap dance to try and make that happen.
Do we reach a point now where it's not worth the effort to go after $1,000 because of the manpower that we're gonna spend to do
That
it?
is pretty much.
And we'll make that decision not to waste the money on an area where you can't get the funds from the federal government, where they basically froze us out of it?
Yes.
And that leaves Title V, and we have received approximately, I want to say $9,000, which is about 50% less than we received last year. And for the past number of years, we have used Title V for technology. So the Technology Committee will be meeting in early September, and we'll consider, some possibilities to bring forward to the board at that time, but felt that they needed a little more time. I've actually heard some pretty good ideas have begun to percolate, so they'll consider what might be a good expenditure of those dollars, and we'll bring a recommendation. But in the interim, we would like especially to get the Title IIA and Title IV paperwork up to Concord, and so we are requesting your approval.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 2006-2007 consolidated grants application. as presented.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's a 4-0.
Lastly, the board received a paper copy, and we did not give everybody a paper copy because we were trying to be good conservationists. Our multi-year technology plan, which is a revision of our previous plan and covers the years 2006 through 2009. And because our plan technically expired on June 30th, and because the board had a very ambitious meeting schedule this past May and June, we asked the state to give us a waiver until the end of July, and instead they asked us to nonetheless go ahead and submit the plan for preliminary approval, and understanding that the board had the final say here as to whether or not this would be our adopted plan. So technically, the state has said the plan meets its requirements and have given preliminary approval through 6/30/07. Because we have only included monetary figures for 1 year, they have said that in order for us to maintain an approved plan with them on an annual basis after the March election, and we know what the budget is, we can then submit an addendum budget for the next couple years to the plan. So this is pending your approval, and I would say if you look at the table of contents here in the front, this covers the required areas. We are given a rubric that we have to follow in development of the plan. But I think our very dedicated members of our technology committee, who are noted for you on page 3, did a wonderful job taking our previous plan, looking at alignment with the strategic plan, with the professional development plan, to try and make this a working document for this district to meet its instructional and administrative responsibilities as far as technology goes. We have a number of members of the committee in the room, including the board. Ron and Dan and George have all helped to create this plan.
But don't go to the meetings together.
No, because actually, Ron and Dan were the board members through March, and then we had a rotation of a committee assignment, and George joined us, and Dan went to the town council.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, and for discussion, we can get it on
No,
the
go ahead.
table. So we can get it then, to accept the multi-year technology plan for 2006 through 2009.
Second.
First and second by George. Discussion, actually Nate raised his hand. I didn't mean to interrupt your motion.
I just wanted to say Sue's being very modest. Sue was the major driving force behind this plan. Sue laid everything out, brought it to the meeting. We added our 2 cents worth or what have you, but Sue was the one that pulled this all together, and she's really to be commended. It was an outstanding piece of work. And all her negotiations with the department and everything, which eats up heavens knows how much time, but she did a great job on it, and she's being very modest. I want to make sure she gets credit for it.
Further discussion? Sue, I think Dan.
Sue, I asked this in the committee several years ago, and I'll ask again. I guess the state's response to us on a number of occasions has amazed me. If we did not submit a plan, what is the revenue, is the impact to the district diminishing? To Ron's question, what the manpower hours or the woman power hours that you put into this and the staff, it's not only Sue, but it's also Lynn Jackson and all the staff that attends these meetings, and they assist you, so I'd like to give them kudos too. And I echo Nate's comments relative to you, Carol, and the rest of the committee, certainly. But at what point can we say to the state, what's the benefit of this? It's certainly something that we can utilize.
Certainly.
But some of the mandates by the state, as a committee member for all those years, I used to sit there and say, this is ridiculous. So, and your retort to me in those years has been, or Nate's, has been that, well, we put money at risk. to the district. But is it a diminishing pool of funds that's coming back to the district for?
To some degree it is, because as the ed tech funds certainly have diminished. We still have some funding through Title V. The other big, I guess, carrot for us would be the E-rate dollars. Because unless we have an approved plan on file with the state, we cannot apply for federal E-rate reimbursement, which we do.
Yep.
And it both reimburses us up to about 40% of the cost of our bonded T1 line and 40% of our phone
Telecommunications.
telecommunication services. So that's about $35,000, I would say.
I'm not trying to be a maverick, but it used to be a lot more money when we got Title V, and the money keeps diminishing, but their requirements keep increasing. And maybe I do want to be a maverick. At some point, we should keep some monitoring of that and say, well, because also, there's a lot of communities that, it still amazes me, the state sent them our copy and said, fill this in. So, I mean, we expend the effort, and rightfully so, and we use it as our working document too. And there is benefit to that, to us internally. But the state won't even give us a 30-day waiver. I mean, and I won't belabor it, but we've had this discussion in committee, and it's just for the board's edification that the monies are shrinking continuously. And at some point you say,
Return on investment.
right, just getting that same thing I've been saying for years. But I do want to add, your staff has done a lot of work
They
too.
have.
So. And Carol,
Everybody, yeah.
I see Carol back there.
Without Carol, who does our minutes, we would not remember where we've been in some meetings, so she.
Even with them.
Further
Hey, Dan,
discussion,
yeah,
Dan?
if you notice on the bottom of the page, they copyrighted the report this time.
Good idea.
It's copyrighted anyways. But.
So I can't plagiarize it anymore, huh? Okay.
Now they have to ask permission to hand it out.
Further discussion?
I don't think they did in the past.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sue. Mr. Balky? Oh, look at this, there's one pencil.
Good evening. Come to the board this evening, asking the board's permission to again participate in the Regional Preschool Improvement Grant. This is a program that Londonderry has participated in, I believe, about 20 years. There's a group in the state that meets throughout the year. The Preschool Technical Assistance Network provides us with consultants, provides the preschool team, the LEAP team, with ongoing professional development, technical assistance, and has really been a valuable program that we've participated in for many, many years. 2 years ago, we had to break off from the organization. Historically, this grant had been done through Ceresc. We have no longer been able to do that through Ceresc, so now we're consolidating with Windham and Pelham, and we file for the grant jointly. Be happy to answer any questions. This is a good program for our preschool.
Questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the regional preschool improvement grants.
Second.
First by Ron and second by Dan. Further discussion? I think the reason you're not seeing questions or discussion is we didn't have a changeover in board members this year, so we remember it from last. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Either that or it's 5 minutes to 10.
Thank you. Either way.
Thank you for staying. Career Technical Ed Regional Agreement.
Right, we are, we along with Goffstown and Manchester are in Region 15 for career technical education. And every 10 years, we are obligated in essence to review the contract, this includes Manchester and Goffstown, review the contract. Darrell Lockwood, who's the superintendent for Goffstown, and I had several meetings over the course of the past year with representatives from Manchester, including superintendent and representatives from the vocational school, to review the master agreement, codify a number of issues. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we had included was a formula that indicated distribution of students and allocation of spots, which was included in there. What you have also is keeping in mind that the slots are divided up among 5 schools, the 3 high schools in Manchester, Londonderry, and Goffstown. We also have the option of going to sending some of our students to Alvern for programs that in fact are not available in Manchester. That's some substance. What we need is board approval, and then we would have to have, I believe, this chair sign off on an original copy and get that to Manchester. Happy to respond to any questions anybody has.
Questions from the board? George?
Nate,
Yes, sir.
maximum available MST seats for the sending school districts, you've got a chart there. I have 2 questions relating to that. Do those numbers cover all of our requests for these programs from our students?
Basically, they do.
So we don't have to turn anybody away, I guess is my.
Several years ago, there was a situation where a number of our students were blocked out. I called the superintendent, and he was kind enough to correct that situation.
Thank you. And the second part of that question is, if this is a 10-year agreement, what formula is in place for growth? As more students may want to take these courses.
The formula is laid out based on slots available.
But the slots do not increase for 10 years.
They may not, or they may. So that, for instance, if in fact they add another section of, let's say, architectural and civil engineering, then the slots would be apportioned based on formula. They are limited.
And then I guess my concern with the agreement is that we're not accounting for projected growth within our own student population for these programs.
The only way, well, that's because they, in fact, are limited by facility also. So,
That makes sense.
okay, that's the issue. However, what happens though is, let's say we're allocated 3 slots in architectural and civil engineering, and Goffstown doesn't use up all their slots, or Manchester doesn't use up all their slots, and we have youngsters that want to participate. And because there are slots available, our kids could then participate.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan and then George, Dan and then Ron?
Nate, can we stay on that same table?
Sure.
So maximum enrollment is sending school districts, so that's
ours.
limited to us and,
These are our numbers. This is
oh,
what.
these are our
Yes,
numbers, okay.
this is what is available
Because we,
for our students to be able to participate.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind too, what you have to.
so this sending school districts is Londonderry?
Right.
Okay,
Should
Okay.
be each.
Yeah.
yes.
Can we get that changed?
Yeah, that's
Because if I read this,
It's
if I
the-
read this as us in Goffstown will be.
Yeah, no.
The preceding paragraph, I think, helps explain that.
But the table is part of the
Yeah,
document.
This is on the number of slots available, but what you have to remember is a lot of these are 2-year programs,
Yep.
right? So that if you've got, kids move in and out of the programs, but if you've got 18 kids going into year 2 in a program where you've got 19 slots, you only have 1 kid
Right.
starting the next year, all right? So,
Go ahead, Dan.
And one follow-up, I remember when Steve and I were chatting with you and Jim and Mike at the vocational committee, did we not add sophomores? Were we not limited in past to just juniors and seniors?
Alver,
Alver, okay. So we did not add sophomores to Manchester?
there are,
Okay.
most of the programs here are not sophomore.
Okay, I just remember the discussion. That clarifies it for me. But this is the first year we've started adding sophomores for this coming year to Alver?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
thank you.
Ron?
I'm all set.
I'm sorry.
That was the first question. On page 2, the last 2 paragraphs, transportation, I understand, as receiving. Can you define, this agreement further allows that if a sending district maintains a high school which does not offer career or technical education courses, the sending district shall be responsible for 25% of the total tuition charge, and the state shall be liable for 75%. Do we fall into that, or where do we stand on something like that?
Well, what happens is the state picks up 75% of the cost. So when you see in our budget, vocational tuition, that's what we pay to Manchester or to Alvern. So the state picks up, in essence, 75% of the vocational cost.
So we're not considered having a career or technical education courses? I guess the question I'm asking, is there a difference if you have the courses or if you don't have the courses? Because here they're very specific to say which do not offer career and technical education courses.
Right, so in other words, if we don't offer auto, which we don't,
Okay,
okay, all we pay is 25% of the tuition cost, and the state picks up 75%. If we had a vocational center that offered auto, all right, and we were filled up or whatever, and we said to Manchester, do you have a slot because I have an extra kid? And they said yes, we'd be liable for the full tuition.
so,
But
right now, let me take that the next step.
Right.
Video production.
Right, we don't send any of our kids for video production.
Okay, so if we did, we would be responsible for 100% of the tuition. Kind of, sort of. Yeah, okay,
Very,
got it.
very good, because if we get more kids subscribed,
okay.
What about going the other way? They come to us for video production.
It would probably work the same way, that the state would pick up 75% of it.
But Manchester's, or in this example, Alvern's students, if they don't have a production center like that, they would get 75-25, where Manchester would not because of that.
And it's, we pay Alvern the same thing, we only pay 25% of the cost. And the state picks up the rest.
Well, oh, I'm sorry, did you have something
Just
else?
one last one.
Yes, sir.
I don't see it in here, but there is, with Manchester, there is no responsibility for construction costs in this contract, correct? We don't have any
No.
liability for construction costs?
No, no.
Paul?
This is really just a recurring in-year contract, right? This doesn't talk to their plans for expansion and building and all that.
No, this is, a million years ago, the state went to a regional concept for career technical education. And what they basically decided to do was build a number of regional centers around the state. The regional center then has, for lack of a better term, a catchment area of sending school districts that would send kids to that regional vocational center. The receiving school district got funds from the state to build vocational center and basically run the program. The quid pro quo was they had to accept students from receiving districts. Because when they set up the regional center and they take a look at what programs they're gonna offer, they do it on a regional basis. So they didn't just do Manchester, they would have done Londonderry and Goffstown and the whole bit. So that's been the focus. So the receiving school district accepts the responsibility of maintaining the program, maintaining the facility, and in return, they basically got a vocational center built completely by the state. All right, and then the state then through Carl Perkins money continued and other federal monies as well as state money continues to support that center. Now Manchester is going to have renovation work done, and that's basically going to be paid for by the state. But that's the quid pro quo for having the center in their district. So they're regional centers, they happen to be housed in Manchester. Manchester gets certain benefits from housing it, but they also have to accept certain responsibilities regarding students coming from sending districts. That's been the philosophy in the state for a long, long time.
Who's a board member who attends the annual joint meeting?
Well, I don't think they've had a joint meeting in a while, and that was one of the conversations that we've had. So it would be our intent to have a board member go. Mike Dolphin has been going to the advisory
These are
meetings.
advisory.
Yeah, yeah.
And as I understand this, then, we get access to a fifth of the available seats, Goffstown similarly.
That's
And the
correct.
other 60% would be the receiving
That's correct.
school Manchester.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you know what the reference to Bedford is on the cover? of this?
Yes, Bedford students presently attend high school in Manchester, and they're considered part of the Manchester allocation. All right?
Okay.
So what I had asked, at the last meeting, I had asked for an accounting of the number of Bedford students that are attending career tech. Because, and that was also why I wanted to have the formula in it. Now, my guess is there are not that many. And what my feeling was, that since the Bedford kids were already presently being counted for in the Manchester kids, it shouldn't result in a diminishing of the number of slots that are available for Goffstown and Londonderry. That was the discussion we had.
Um,
Can I just follow up on that
Sure.
question though? What happens when Bedford gets their own high school? Where is their vocational center gonna be? Has that been determined?
Well, my guess is it will be Manchester, but I think there would have to be action by the state to in fact do that. But my guess is they would be in this region. Let's see, the other region that they could go to would be Salem or Alvern, I would think.
The only reason I'm asking that is, does that make that 1/6 as opposed to 1/5?
Yeah, well, that was part of the discussion that we have, and I think we'd still be entitled to a fifth, and so would Goffstown, because we're making the assumption that the Bedford kids are already going there. That's why I asked for the numbers.
Okay.
They are in fact going there.
I think I saw maybe in some of Peter's paperwork earlier in the meeting that we have around 100 kids taking classes.
Yeah, we have, I think it's over 100, yeah.
And is there some, do I recall that there's some visibility into which of these courses we actually do use, perhaps in Jim's forecast?
No hearing. Thank you for coming up.
During budget time, I know we submitted that to you. We said the number of kids going and the courses that they're taking and where they're going, whether they're going to Manchester or Alvern. We can get that for you. We don't have it tonight, but I know we submitted a list to you during budget time.
I just thought I recall we see that at some point
Yep.
during the cycle. And Jim, may I comment that your tan is outstanding?
Thank you. Must be my Italian skin on weekends.
One last question I have, Nate or Jim, either of you, if you know, or any board members, have we ever had an instance where insufficient funding was an issue?
With whom?
There's a paragraph in here where if the state can't come through with the reimbursement monies, that it then falls
Oh,
upon the.
yeah, that's just like every other grant we get from the state. So for instance, the building aid, let's say we're supposed to get $100,000 in building aid. And the state says, well, we only have enough for 92%, so you're gonna get 92,000. Same thing would apply to vocational programs. If in fact we're supposed to get 2/3, 75%, reimbursement, or Manchester's supposed to get 75% for each kid, the state says, well, we only have enough for 70, then instead of us paying 25%, we gotta pay 30. So it's no different than any other funding mechanism that the state uses. They say, well, if we have the money, we'll give you this. If we don't, we'll give you less than that, and you gotta find the difference. Usually, we know that before rate setting time, so, we would know to make adjustment in any revenues that are coming in to accommodate what we need.
Okay, so we know in advance, and it has happened in the past.
In the state, yeah. Vocational ed, vocational ed, they have not.
They have not.
I cannot remember, over the almost 20 years I've been here, when that has happened. Vocational ed has not been.
Pretty safe.
Yeah. However, looking down the road, Carl Perkins money seems to be in jeopardy every time the federal government goes into session, the Senate goes into session, so there's no guarantee. But generally, this has been pretty good. This has always been, I can't think of a time when they've cut short on it. Most of the time, building aid is pretty good, they make that up, and most of the time, catastrophic aid. But that simply what that means is, the receiving district is not gonna, because the state doesn't come up with money to offset the cost of Londonderry kids, doesn't mean that Manchester is now gonna eat our tuition. That's all it is, it's a fair deal, because they're picking up for their own kids too, so.
Nate, last question. This 10-year contract, does it encumber us financially in any way?
No. The only encumbrance on our part is the number of kids that we're sending.
Number of kids that we're allowed to send.
Right.
Not mandatory that we send.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'll need a motion and just include that one, the request of the Manchester School of Technology to make that one
Yep,
table typo that we consider.
sure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we
Authorize me to sign it.
authorize you to sign the Career and Technical Education Regional Agreement for Region 15, dated February 2006, with the change on, I think it's Table 2, just to clarify maximum number of MST seats for each of the sending school districts. Adding the word each in there would clarify that.
Yep. I don't think they have a problem with it, that's the intent.
Yeah.
Call seconds, thank you. All in favor, or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we reconvene non-public session under RSA 91A3, Section 2, A through F.
Second.
First and a second from Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Steve Young. Yep, and if you're in this room, you are on the air, and the next time we end a meeting 15 minutes early, I'm going to gavel out the yawning. It was contagious. Good night.
Oh, you were at the library wars way too.
And may I remind everyone, when you're in this room, you are on the air. They don't listen.
What?
All right, and I'm not sure I will have questions, but just in case I do.
No problem.
Steve, one of the announcements you missed, and it isn't in the packet, is the tours of the